Okay.
Welcome to the Out There channel live stream 358. Let's see how today's stream goes after the outages yesterday. Yesterday we had crackle on the voice on my microphone. I think it was mostly, but it was on also on the talking voices. So if you hear crackling on any of the voices, let us know, because we can fix it within a few seconds. And we had at least an hour there yesterday of crackle, which ruined the Travis episode that we did.
Yeah, before anybody told us.
Oh no.
It was Tommy that told us, wasn't it?
Yeah. But we did a 4-hour stream there, so most of it's crackle free, hopefully. I skimmed it, seemed okay. CPU's maxed out at the moment. Sometimes we get crackle when the CPU's maxed out, but it's normally on the intro. And I'm still yet to find time to create a new intro, but we'll get there at some stage. It's still a pretty cool intro though. Going down into the secret basement, level -07. Hello. Hello. Good to be back. We're back. No hardcore swearing on the side, no trolling, no promoting fraud channels that we debunk on a regular basis. You know who they are. And be civil to each other and just have a good time. And we focus on UFO cases today with Robert and some news apparently. So yeah, I'll just minimize that and type up a side comment. So what are we doing today, Robert?
Yeah, we've got some news up first. It's an interview with Christopher Mellon and James Fox. It's less than 5 minutes. And I'll leave you a link for that now. And then we'll be moving on to the Plains of San Agustin, and probably one of the most controversial cases in history. Certainly caused some fallout.
Yeah, but I noticed we skipped 1960 Red Bluff incident. Where we can pop that in today.
I don't know if we'll have time. This first case is going to use up a large part of the show.
Yeah, because it keeps getting pushed back, that one.
We can bring it up next week.
It does.
We can bring it up next week.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it looks like everything seems to be working alright with the side chat. Who we got out there? One person. Who's that? Probably one of us, is it? So yeah, I got the list here. You got a UFO crash. Got Rey Abduction. Because Google doesn't like alien abductions.
Yeah, it's a good interview, that.
So yeah. Where's the thing? There it is. Everything seems to be working alright. 80% at the moment, 60. Bouncing between. So yeah. Over to you, Robert, I guess. I'll just do an audio check this end myself, since no one's around.
I've left you a link for the first topic.
Okay, and let me just have a look. The audio sounds alright too. Copy link address. It's gradually warming up here in New Zealand. I think it's going to hit 30 degrees Celsius in the bedroom. Time.
Shut up about it. Flipping hot weather.
By the time lunchtime arrives, it'll be like super hot bedroom.
It keeps on.
Freezing over here.
That's what I said. Keeps on.
Yeah. Fox News. Yeah.
You'll have no issues playing that.
Yeah, James Fox is getting his face on things again.
Yeah, well, as I was talking last week about the potential for Mellon and Louise and co to be teaming up with James Fox, I think this is almost confirms it for you,
Mm,
Yeah.
yep,
Although it's not official as yet, but it may as well be.
yep. Okay, I'll just click play in a minute. Better check out the audio levels though. And also I need to create a folder for today's show. I forgot to do that. I'll do that at some stage. Okay, is there an intro on this? What's that noise?
Amount of evidence, including physical evidence.
Okay, I might scroll it back in a minute. It looks like we've got suddenly an error message pop up here, which is not a good sign. We'll just reset the mixer just in case now. Yeah, it's starting to slow down now. It's
Yep.
Evidence that UFOs, whatever
I'll
they
just
are
boost it
real.
up a
Why
bit.
don't we know a lot more about this? Because the government has hidden that information from us, outrageously. But now some of that information has come into public view
let's
thanks to a
restart
new
it.
documentary. Enormous amount of evidence, including physical evidence, that you. We used to be defensive on this
truth is
topic.
out
There's
there.
no reason to be. There is now an
Out
enormous
there,
amount
channel.
of evidence, including physical evidence, that UFOs, whatever they are real. Why don't we know a lot more about this? Because the government has hidden that information from us, outrageously. But now some of that information has come into public view thanks to a new documentary called The Phenomenon. We learned the feds are hiding more than we thought they were.
All we're saying, nobody has to agree that why it's there, but shouldn't we at least be spending some money to study all these phenomenon? Shouldn't we study this stuff? The answer is yes, and that's all this was about. And why the federal government all these years has covered up, put brake pads on everything, stopped it. I think it's very, very bad for our country.
Are you saying that there's some evidence that still hasn't seen the light of day?
I'm saying most of it hasn't seen the light of day.
It's outrageous. And it's not a partisan question, by the way. That, of course, was former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid of Nevada, a Democrat if there ever was one. But that's not even the biggest claim he makes. According to the film, Reid said that UFOs have actually and repeatedly interfered with our nuclear weapons capabilities. So where are these UFOs from? Some researchers told the filmmakers that their origins are becoming clearer.
Dr. Jacques Vallée has collected purported metal debris from UFO cases dating as far back as 1947 that experts are analyzing in a state-of-the-art laboratory. He was astonished to find their composition was unlike any known metal.
This material was manufactured. It's not natural. It's not natural to the materials that we have around us in the lab or on the Earth.
Yeah, physical evidence of extraterrestrial spaceships visiting Earth, not a big deal. It's nothing compared to like the fly on Mike Pence's forehead. If this wasn't an election year, we'd be doing a full hour on this, maybe a full week. It's that important. Unfortunately, we just have a few minutes with James Fox. He's the director and producer of The Phenomenon, now and Christopher Mellon, a former senior intelligence official from the Department of Defense. They join us tonight. Mr. Fox, first to you, thank you both for coming on and for making this film. I just want to ask you in turn about these two strains from the documentary. The first, to you, James Fox, is the question of the nuclear weapons facilities. How often do we think UFOs have visited and why?
Well, that was one of the big bombshells that Harry Reid dropped during production of the film. It really kind of caught me off guard because it's the first time, a government official of his magnitude, of his level, had revealed that these UFOs were not only seen over, super secret nuclear weapons facilities, but they were interacting, shutting on and off some of the missiles. He went as far as even saying that if the president had called upon to launch the missiles in several occasions, they couldn't have done it. The missiles were deactivated. And this has also been happening in Russia. And we document those cases very thoroughly with high-level military officials testifying about these incidents.
It's almost, it's beyond. Mr. Mellon, quickly to you, physical evidence of UFOs, metal from the craft, where?
Well, this is, my congratulations to James. This is the most informative and engaging documentary and important documentary on this subject, because it's no longer a theoretical issue, as you've observed. This is now, the Defense Department has confirmed this is happening. Congress is asking questions. They're asking for a report. So this information, people need to get an understanding and a context with which to sort of process and absorb this. In terms of the materials, there are private researchers, Jacques, perhaps foremost among them, also to the Stars Academy, that have materials and are funding research. Jacques is a meticulous scientist, so he's sending it to peer review in multiple labs. But the gist of it is that those materials were engineered at an atomic level. It's a capability that we don't even possess. If they can prove that and demonstrate that, that'll raise a lot of interesting questions.
It's, yeah, you think?
At the atomic level.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can they conclusively prove that? Do we have the right technology in place to reveal whether that's true or not? And if so, will they tell us? That's the question.
It's debatable, and I don't think they'd tell us.
Well, because TTSA signed a contract with the Army, didn't they, to look at these materials? So I don't know. Surely, if it's anything of great importance, the Army have got every right to classify it, and they probably will.
Yeah.
If they changed what serial they had in the morning, they'd classify it. You know, that's how the military works.
Yeah.
I don't know,
yeah,
but
because of mass panic. See, that's the problem.
well, I don't know. Maybe they could tell us. Maybe they will tell us. Maybe that's the plan. But we know now the main players have left TTSA. So, you know, I'm not really sure what's going on at the moment. I just don't know what's going on.
Just seem to get drip feeds of information and
Yeah,
everywhere, and then you have to put the puzzle together, then, don't you?
Yeah, I know we have to read between the lines like we've had to do for God knows how long now, for decades.
Yeah, and it looks like it's going to keep on like that as well.
Well, I hope it doesn't continue, but I don't know. I just don't. I'm hoping otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we should really move on to our main case for the day.
Mm-hmm.
I can find the damn thing now.
Which is
the Plains of
UFO
Agustin
crash.
UFO crash. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it's known as the Roswell. This is where controversy comes in. Some recent Friedman seem to believe it was part of the same incident.
Mm-hmm.
Others, like Kevin Randall, do not.
We sure you haven't covered this one before? We've done UFO crashes quite a bit.
No, we've never covered this, Paul.
Not
in any kind of detail, anyway.
Okay, you reckon? It won't hurt to repeat it anyway, I suppose.
No, honestly, we've never covered it in detail. I think we may have gone over it, touched on it as part of the Roswell incident, but never as an independent case, which is the way I believe it should be treated. Link is there, waiting for you, Paul.
Yeah, it's this one that sort of scrolls into funny places. Let's see.
Okay. Yeah, that's the only. It's not the best text, is it, for reading? But this is the most conclusive, in-depth article that is out there. So what do I do? You know.
Well, Paul was reading most of it last night.
Oh dear.
Didn't use the reader.
Okay, where is it? It might be too loud. Let me just let's do something crazy here. It's still loading or something.
Could be still loading.
some script on this page, I think.
I don't think there's any script because I always try highlighting it myself before I send it to you, you know, and I didn't have any problem.
Yeah, I've got a pop-up popping up here.
Ooh.
Try again.
Revealed. By Anthony Bragalia, the UFO Iconoclasts, May 16, 10.
Might be a bit loud.
Evidence
That's
now
not bad.
suggests that when we think of the Roswell UFO crash, that we should not just think of crash sites that were located within relatively
Yeah,
close
sounds
proximity
alright.
to one another. We should also consider a possibly related site located much farther away within west-central New Mexico. It is a highly significant site, for it is there where it was reported that the corpses of interplanetary pilots were found. A boost has now been given to the credibility of the famous, but contentious Barney Barnett story of a UFO crash in New Mexico's Plains of San Agustin region. Fresh evidence supporting this event comes from a recent interview with a decorated colonel about his talk with witness Barney Barnett. A possible confirmation of Barney Barnett's encounter by intelligence agent and Roswell witness Jesse Marcel Sr. Telling information about another crash site with bodies, provided by Jesse Marcel Sr.'s daughter-in-law to this author. The stunning discovery of a Harvard University document about archaeologists at the scene of the reported crash. The document exposes the archaeologist who is now found to have lied to researchers that he was not there, and that he had seen nothing. Considered together, this information points to another crash event that may have in some way been associated with the Roswell incident. But this site may be of equal or greater interest and importance than the ones commonly discussed. This is because at this site a strange metallic disc was rested, cracked on a flat desert floor. Aside it and inside it were strewn the smallish bodies of the unearthly. Bringing back Barney. Grady L. Barney Barnett was highly regarded as an official of long standing with the U.S. Soil Conservation Service in New Mexico. His story was first related in the first book on Roswell, The Roswell Incident, published in 1980 and authored by William Moore and Charles Berlitz, with the assistance of Stanton Friedman. Today the Barnett story remains largely ignored, forgotten, or discredited, as it does not neatly fit into the Roswell story and locations as told today. Barnett had related to some friends that while out working on projects around the Plains of San Agustin, also spelled San Agustin, he had encountered a disc-shaped spaceship the color of dirty stainless steel, about 20 or 30 feet in diameter. While examining the disc, a small group of university research archaeologists on a dig had arrived, and had also encountered the crash and corpses. The bodies were entirely unlike anything that Barnett and his companions had ever seen. They had huge hairless heads, and were outfitted in one-piece grayish suits with no belts or zippers. According to information provided by Barnett's friends and associates, who spoke publicly about the event after his death, soldiers then soon arrived. A cordon was put in place around the crash site, and the civilians were admonished that it was their duty to country not to say anything to anyone of what they had seen. Although the time frame of Barnett's encounter was similar to Roswell's, Barnett had placed his sighting of the downed craft and pilots over 200 miles from Roswell in the Plains of San Agustin region of New Mexico. The machine was split open upon explosion or impact. Barnett got close enough to see what the creature pilots looked like, but he did not touch them. He said that they were like humans but not humans, small by our standards. They seemed to be males, and there were a number of them. The eyes were oddly spaced. Barnett told his friends that then military officers drove up to the scene and told the assembled to leave. They were escorted off of the site and were told to say nothing ever of what they had witnessed. Barnett's story first came to light through researcher Stanton Friedman. After a talk Friedman had given at Bemidji State College in October 1978, before all of the Roswell books, he was approached by Vern Moultrie and his wife Jean. The Moultrie couple related to Friedman a story that they were told many years prior by one Grady Barney Barnett. A flying saucer had fallen, and their friend confessed that he saw it. Barney's believability and support for his story. Many people have spoken very well of Grady Barney Barnett, who died in 1969. Vern and Jean Multay. Vern Multay and his wife Jean say that in February of 1950, Barney told them a story about an incredible UFO crash event that had happened just a few years prior in the New Mexico desert. He provided to them details about his encounter, including viewing bodies that were not human. He said to Multay that the bodies were very thin, 3.5 to 4 feet tall, and that there were 4 of them. Multay also said that Barney spoke of arriving archaeologists to the crash scene. Though an incredible story, they believed Barney. That is because they knew Barnett to be a believable man. And he was. He was a WWI Army vet, later employed by the U.S. government, in a responsible position performing inspection and field engineering services for many years. A church-going Presbyterian and board member of the Socorro Electric Co-op, he was highly regarded by those in his community. Lee Garner, a former mayor of Socorro, speaks of Barney as a truthful and trustworthy man. James and Beth Danley. Barney's boss during the night.
I'm just going to pause it there. Do you want to say anything about that so far?
Yes, I guess so. It's just that he was a man that seems like a great social standing, and there's been many people of also who seem to have great integrity that backed up the man's credibility, and he always told the story the same way. Of course, now he wasn't alone on the scene. These archaeologists arrived on the scene just slightly afterwards, I think. And when we get to them, this is where it gets really intriguing.
And if we hear any snoring, it'll be Charles, not me.
Okay.
He's only had 1 hour's sleep in 24 hours, isn't it?
Ooh.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I'll just carry on.
1940s and 1950s was James Fleck Danley. Danley was on the Water Conservation Board in Magdalena, New Mexico. Danley and Danley's wife Beth recall Barney fondly and favorably as well. But they go one step further and recall the time when Barney quietly told about the UFO crash, corroborating the Multay couple's claim. Fleck explained in an interview in 1979, again, before all of the Roswell books, that Barney had mentioned to him his witnessing of a crashed flying saucer. Some years later Fleck described Barney one of the most honest men I ever knew. I never knew Barney to lie. Not about anything. Howard Baca. Barney's neighbor and close friend Harold Baca also indicates that he too was privately related this crash story by Barney. Barney brought it up in connection with the cancer that he was battling in 1967. Barney told Baca about the crash from decades prior. He had expressed to Baca concern, by bending over the debris and bodies, Barney was fearful that he may have inhaled something toxic while leaning over the crash site. He felt that it may have been related to the respiratory cancer he was currently suffering. Baca once asked Barney's wife about the crash site. Was Barney hallucinating, or what? Ruth replied, "Oh no. It really happened there out on the plains 20 years ago. But we just do not talk about it much anymore." Baca explains, "We had other things to do at that time. We were raising a family of 4, and I just didn't discuss it anymore with them. It wasn't until later on that I grasped what the man had seen. He died and I regretted not getting more information." Alice Knight. Barney's niece, Alice Knight, is more specific about when the crash happened. She indicated that she has known of the crash that involved Barney for many, many decades. She states that she and her new husband John Braxton had visited Socorro and Uncle Barney on Thanksgiving in 1947. She said that the event had happened only several months before, likely the summer of that year, and that her uncle was still nervous about the possibility of military showing up. She thought he was on a road near the Plains of San Agustin. She said that Barney had mentioned encountering some folks on a dig while at the crash site. We will soon see just who was there on a dig later in this article. Barney's niece also mentioned that her aunt, Barney's wife Ruth, once confided to her about Barney. After that thing in 47, Barney was not quite himself.
Yeah, Alice Knight, Barney's niece, will have a look. We've got an interview with her coming later. So I don't know. And this is the problem: the precise date of when this happened, and whether it had anything to do with the Roswell incident or not. This is where the real controversy comes in. Not so much Barney's testimony. No one seems to question that, but the date of when it happened. This is what's caused all the problems, and of course the archaeologists as well. But we'll get into it.
Sounds intriguing.
It is.
Himself. We are presented with Barney's boss, a close relative, a neighbor, and a friend who all independently tell the story of Barney's alien ordeal. Researcher Art Campbell wonders, what factors but Barney's honesty and sincerity would compel Barney's friends and relatives to tell the same lifelong story without variance amid much inconvenience, with nothing to gain? Though Barney's wife Ruth maintained a diary, it does not mention this crash event, but it does confirm that Barney was out on the plains on July 2 of 1947. Why this crash revelation was not mentioned in the diary is understandable. It is not something that you want to commit to print. It would be too incriminating. Putting it on paper would be risky. Alice Knight said that Barney and Ruth agreed to never write anything down about the event. Just like those at Roswell with no known diaries describing the crash event, the Barnett encounter would not be found in any diary. But some who were entrusted would be imparted this information. It was told to only a very few to those who would only relate what they knew when Barney himself was dead. A colonel's confirmation, Barney told the truth. William Lead retired as a colonel of the U.S. Army, and has a very interesting tale to tell about Barney Barnett. Highly decorated, Lead served at Ft. Hood and other locations, and was in the Signal Corps. He left active duty in 1995. Lead's story about Barnett's UFO crash experience adds to the information provided by the Molte couple, the Danley couple, Barney's neighbor and Barney's niece. Some years ago, Lead contacted researcher Stanton Friedman after becoming aware of Friedman's research on Barney Barnett and the plane's UFO crash. Lead indicated that he had actually met Barney Barnett back in the 1960s. Lead is consistent in his story, and recounts accurately to me what he told Stanton Friedman 2 decades ago. With assistance from researcher Art Campbell, who provided several of the photos for this article, this author interviewed Lead a few months ago by telephone at Lead's upstate New York home. What Lead has to say supports the veracity of Barney Barnett, and the likely truth of the story he told. When Lead was a first lieutenant in the mid-1960s, the subject of UFOs arose amongst Lead and a few officers. Lead told me that a superior officer then approached him to tell him a little more about the subject. Lead says that the officer then confidentially took Lead aside and told him that if he wanted to know that truth about UFOs, he should track down a person named Mr. Barney Barnett of Socorro, New Mexico. Barnett, he was told, was a man who had touched one. In the summer of 1967, Lead began a quest to research Barnett's whereabouts and to meet with him. Lead had located Barney's address and began a vacation adventure throughout the Southwest that would include a stop to Barney's house. Pulling up to Barney's modest house in a non-air-conditioned car, Lead recalls, he was a bit shy and nervous about actually approaching Barney at his home. Mustering the courage, he was greeted kindly by Barnett, by then very thin and frail, who invited him in. Lead cautiously began to introduce himself. Lead was asked by Barney to show some ID, and Lead showed him his military ID, but said that his interest was strictly personal. He then began to inquire about what he had heard that Barney saw a crashed UFO many years ago. He was there for less than 15 minutes, and took up more time with tourist talk, and less than 5 minutes on the crashed UFO subject. Lead said to me that Barney confirmed that a disc-type aircraft had crashed, and that he came across it unexpectedly. Barney confirmed to Lead without ambiguity that he believed it to have been the crash of a flying saucer, not something from Earth. Barney appeared somewhat nervous and indicated to Lead that he had been visited before by military about the event. Lead, who in my interview of him seemed very frank and articulate, explained to me that he believed that Barney was telling the absolute truth as he remembered it. Lead said that he knew this because of Barney's anxious but sincere look and demeanor. Lead sensed that Barney may have feared that he was being interrogated or intimidated by military visits, something it is said that did happen to Barney in intervening years. Lead told me that it was not his objective to obtain every little detail about Barney's experience, but rather what Lead wanted to do most was to get a sense of his basic honesty. Lead said, "I am satisfied that Barney was telling the truth.
Do you want to pause it there,
That's
Paul?
all I wanted to know, and I left."
Thanks, perfect. Yeah, so the guy who's actually talking here now is Anthony Bragalia. He's the one that's done all this research, you see. Found out some stuff that some of the other original researchers didn't do. He's quite a responsible researcher. I believe you may have heard his name, Paul.
When I hear Art Campbell, I was thinking of Art Bell, because the name sounds very similar. It's got Bell on the end, you see. But yeah, it's amazing how many similar names there are in ufology. Barney is always. Whenever I hear Barney, I always think of Barney and Betty Hill. You see.
Yeah.
I don't know how you sort of can remember all these different names.
His real name was Grady Barnett, but they called him Barney. That was a nickname. But for now we get on to this is Anthony Bragalia's work. Now I think he was the first one to actually do a deep dig on this. Sorry, no pun intended, on this archaeologist guy. And let me go. It's interesting, this.
Left. An archaeologist covers up. The presence of archaeologists at the scene of a UFO crash site is a recurring theme when studying the Roswell incident. Barney Barnett had also reported the presence of archaeologists. Researchers such Kevin Randall, Tom Carey, and Don Schmidt began to comb through dig records and university archives to contact any archaeologists who may have been working in New Mexico in early July of 1947, the time period associated with the crashed saucer. They wanted to reach them to see if any of them had ever seen any such crash sites in NM during that time period. They were able to interview many of those who were still living. While considering various archaeologists, researchers uncovered Harvard-trained Dr. Herbert Dick. Dick was a noted architect who passed away in 1992. Some years before his death, however, he was located and questioned. Dick categorically denied that he had ever worked around the Plains of San Agustin region in July of 1947. Dick had told researchers he had not been there, telling one of them, "If I knew anything I would have told you." One of his dig party, Jeff Morris, also denied it. These denials were reported in early 1990s issues of the publication IUR International UFO Reporter and elsewhere. It turns out though that Dick had lied to these researchers when he was interviewed by them. In 2006 a revealing letter was uncovered by researcher Art Campbell. Campbell has been active in the UFO field for decades, including with NICAP. He is the author of UFO Crash at San Agustin and maintains the UFO Crash book website. The documents that he discovered confirm that Dick had not told the truth. Dick was in fact at the plains at the very time that he said that he was not. Campbell recently shared with me the correspondence.
Oh no, we're going to get censored by Google now, aren't we? But every time I hear the word dick, all I can see is a picture of Goof on in front of me, you know?
Oh, right, okay.
That's what says probably his dad.
They should have stuck his name in as Richard or something. At least it sounds better. But yeah, we're going to get censored probably.
But anyway, it was actually proved that this deck was actually where he was supposed to have been. But he's completely lied about it. Why would he do that? Why on earth would he do that? Anyway.
Yeah.
Correspondence that Dick had sent to his graduate advisor at Harvard at the time. By working with the Peabody Museum of Harvard University, from which Dick graduated with his Ph.D., copies of these letters were obtained. A December 1947 letter confirms that Dick had indeed conducted site investigations there in the plains, specifically during the weeks of July 1st to 14th, 1947. In the letter, and in direct contradiction to what he had repeatedly told researchers, Dick clearly states that our party proceeded to the Plains of San Agustin on July 1st, 1947. We spent 2 weeks carefully contouring, mapping and trenching. And Dick must have remembered this time period well. This is because in other letters that he authored that were discovered, we learn that he had vied for that very dig trip and time frame against a competing student. He even wrote his graduate advisor on why he should be selected over his competitor to go to New Mexico. If Dick could clinch permission from Harvard administration for this dig on the plains during early July, he knew that it would propel him above his competing colleagues at Harvard. In fact, it did. That very work set the course for a very notable professional career.
Pause it, Paul. Okay, just in case you missed anything now, something important, look at the dates there. Between the 1st and the 14th of July 1947. Now that ties it in with the Roswell crash. Although it's important to know now that the Plains of Augustine are 200 miles away from where Mac Brazel found the original debris, the first so-called debris field.
But if you're flying at hypersonic speeds, 200 miles is probably nothing.
It's nothing. Yeah.
Seconds.
Yeah.
Let's see. What's hypersonic? Mach 5 and higher? I think it is, isn't it? 5 times the speed of sound. So what's that in miles per hour? Go on. 766?
Well, put it this way, if it was going 200 miles per second, what would that be in miles per hour? Several thousand miles per hour. I'd have a rough guess.
Maybe they were flying formation and they just smacked into each other somehow.
Oh my God! Well, you might just be right, Charles, because that's exactly the conclusion that Stanton Friedman came to.
No, I didn't mean to go to the end of the story. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
That's just what I was thinking.
Well done, man.
Yeah. Okay, so it works out at... It's got kilometres, isn't it? Oh no, miles. Almost 4,000 miles per hour. So,
Jeez, yeah, we had nothing that could do that then. That's these two captions.
If it's a crash, and it skipped and carried on, so how far could it go in maybe a few seconds? So you have to divide that by what, 360 is it? Or so we say 4,000 divided by seconds, minutes. Oh, right. So it's divided by 60, divided by 60, divided by 60, isn't it? Seconds, minutes, minutes an hour. No, just divided by 360, I think. Is that right? So that breaks it down to 1 meter. No, that can't be right, can it?
No.
1 meter. 1 mile per a second, isn't it? 1 mile per second. So yeah, that means to go 200 miles. We have to times that by, that would be 200 seconds, wouldn't it? 200 seconds. So what's 200 seconds in minutes? 3 minutes. So could it crash and bounce for 3 minutes? Bounce 3 minutes and travel 200 miles?
But I think it's quite plausible that it collided with another one, because you've got to look at the sightings that were over New Mexico at the time. There was dozens of them being seen. The phones of the radio stations and the military were ringing off the hook. Yeah, there was like a whole bunch of sightings over a period of 2 to 3 weeks of multiple objects. So it's not beyond the laws of plausibility.
I think it's possible. Yeah, I think it's possible also that something fell off it, or like something hit it and something fell off it, and that created the first debris field that had all that strange material, and the plane the UFO kept going for another 3 minutes, which is 200 miles at that speed, and then crashed. Well, we're assuming it's Mach 5, right? So obviously Mach 5 is probably slow for a flying saucer. It's probably closer to Mach 10 or Mach 20, right? So we're seeing some of the speeds, right?
Mach 20 plus, yeah.
Yeah, so that 3 minutes can be then dropped back down, you see. So every Mach 5 is 3 minutes. So another 5 would make it a minute and a half, right? And another 5 make it 15. Mach 15 would drop it down to 50 seconds to go 200 miles. It's quite amazing speed, really, when you think about that. The G-forces would be immense. But then we worked it out to be something crazy on the Nimitz one. It was 1,300 Gs, right?
Yeah.
I think to go that 1 second. And the speed was, I can't remember what the speed was now, 28,000 miles per hour.
Yeah, that's right. What I think it was, yeah. That
which divided that by Mach 5, which is 4. 4's into 28, 6, is it almost? So that means if it's going at Nimitz speed under 3 minutes divided by 6 would be the time to travel 200 miles. So what's that work out?
7 divided by 7.
So not 3 minutes divided by 6, isn't it?
7.
7? I'm not sure how you get 7.
3, 4.
Oh, 7, is it? Okay. 0.4 of a second, isn't it? There you go. So that would make out for a debris field for sure, if it bounced and crashed half a second later.
Yeah.
And that speed, if it's traveling at that incredible speed when it bounced, it would have left some debris behind and bounced 200 miles, which is possible at that speed. That's what we just found out. When you're talking about hypersonic speeds.
Of course, we don't know exactly the speed of it because it was struggling to get airborne again, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so even if it lost all its speed when it hit the ground and bounced, right? Let's say that Mach speed.
We don't know. Yeah, we don't know the precise dates.
Yeah, the Mach speed would have dropped down to Mach 15 quite easily. It's still within bounds of 200 miles. Yeah, it's still moving.
Oh yeah, the momentum would still have been there. Yes.
Yeah, it's like skipping a stone on water, right? So we got 2 people watching. If you're new to the channel, do follow and do say hi in the side chat. We're quite friendly lot. Okay, we'll just carry on.
Yeah.
Career. Dick curiously mentions the Bat Cave during his expedition there. Smaller caves near the Bat Cave are rumored to have held some of the crash debris reportedly hidden by a rancher, Dan Richards. A thorough search of records finds that no other group of archaeologists were working on the plains in early July of 1947, except Herbert Dick and party, and Dick lied that he was even there. Lies are used to cover up the truth by those who wish to evade it. To have ever spoken of the event, Dick may have felt that he could have risked a security breach, his own professional advancement, future professional credibility, award of grant monies, or later in life damage to his impressive professional legacy. Dick's unqualified denials cannot be chalked up to the possibility that Dick had somehow forgotten or confused the dates. Dick's denial was instead intentional. It was meant to deceive. This was his very first major archaeological expedition. It was one that he coveted and for which he had competed, and the one which careened his career. And Dick was an historical thinker. By his nature and as an archaeologist, he was the type who gave careful attention to dates and details. But his accuracy did not extend to his recounting of the crash event on the plains. Here is part of this revealing letter that confirms Dick's presence on the plains. Peabody document. Herbert Dick letter. Of course, the site closer to Roswell also claims its own involved archaeologist, Dr. Curry Holden. Holden was implicated in the discovery of a UFO crash site associated directly with the Roswell event. But Holden was in a different region of New Mexico when he made his discovery. Is it possible that the crash at that time involved very far-flung materials within the state? Could two different dig parties have located two separate, or maybe related, crashed UFO debris sites? Perhaps so. For who else but people like archaeologists and paleontologists, or rock hunters and ranchers roam the remote New Mexican deserts to find such things? Did Marcel know about Barney? In an email to this author, Roswell Major Jesse Marcel's daughter-in-law, Linda Marcel, confirmed that at the end of his life Jesse has spoken of another crash site with bodies. And a careful rereading of a transcript by this author of one of the very first recorded interviews of intelligence officer Marcel is revealing. Marcel makes a cryptic mention of another, similar site that was found much farther away, and to the west of the site that he had investigated. He said that a surveyor there had also come across UFO crash debris. Marcel may well have been alluding to surveyor Barney Barnett. Jesse Marcel Sr., who testified that he had witnessed and handled ET debris near Roswell, told his family that there was more than one Roswell-related crash site. He also confirmed that through an entrusted source he had learned there were in fact recovered bodies at another site. This revelation was made to me in an email dated September 2, 2007 from Linda Marcel. Linda was Jesse Marcel Sr's daughter-in-law and wife to Jesse's son, Jesse Jr. She wrote to me in part, "As far as we know, Jesse Sr. never saw any bodies." I asked him and he told me no. He said that he was at the first crash site, and that there were no bodies. He said though that he did know someone who did see the bodies. He said that it was someone he trusts. He never said who. We learn more about this and its potential tie to Barnett in one of the first interviews that Marcel ever granted on the Roswell subject. The late reporter and UFO researcher Bob Pratt conducted a recorded interview with Jesse Marcel, Sr. on December 8, 1978. Pratt found Marcel to be a very impressive man and quite believable. Buried within a transcript of this interview of Marcel were some very revealing statements that were found by this author. In a response to a question, a little more than halfway into the interview, Marcel states that well west from the site that he himself had encountered, that there was another similar site that was located. Marcel said, and I learned later that, farther west, towards Carrizozo they found something like that too, 80 miles west of there. Pratt then asks Marcel about just who it was that saw something similar out there. Marcel replied, I think that it was discovered by some surveyor out there. Well, of course Barney's crash event was located farther west to Marcel's, when Barney saw something similar to what was found near Roswell. But most tellingly, Barney Barnett was a surveyor for the U.S. Soil Conservation Service. When Marcel mentioned a surveyor, did he mean Barney? What is not well known is that the primary duty of Barney's job for the U.S. government was to perform land surveying. In fact, most of his time was designated to such surveying activity. He delineated and established property lines, outlined the parameters of civil and land projects, and he created markers for towns in the region. Barney could often be seen at the county surveyor office consulting survey records. Barney also performed civil projects inspections. It is of significance too that Marcel said to Pratt that he had heard that they had found something similar at the other site. Marcel uses the plural they, but then he specifically mentions a surveyor. Of course Barney Barnett was a surveyor that found a site that others did. Marcel somehow knew that this surveyor was not alone, but was part of a group, perhaps of archaeologists or military, when the other site was located. So here we have Marcel himself confirming that there was another site. And he indicates that like Barney's discovery it was located many miles away, and much further west from the site that Marcel himself had investigated. Marcel told his daughter-in-law that, like at the Barnett location, there were bodies found at that site. He said that the other crash event was similar to what had happened closer to Roswell. And most remarkably, Marcel said that the other site was found by people including someone that he had specifically described as a surveyor. Was Jesse referring to Barney? We may never know conclusively. In what may have been his last recorded interview before he died, Marcel admitted to researcher Linda Corley, "There is a hell of a lot that I haven't said for the sake of my country." Site specifics.
Okay, do you want to pause it there first?
Is there a way to reconcile all of the different sites into one?
Thanks. Yes, I mean, I don't know. It's quite speculative that Marcel was talking about Barney, isn't it? Certainly can't be sure of that, but there's certainly it's a bit coincidental that he mentions a surveyor. It's such a shame that Barney passed away in 1969 before any of the researchers could actually get to him, because then no question, well, almost no question, there would have been a taped interview done, and we could look at it for ourselves. And
well, it's debatable whether he'd say anything because he state secrets, wasn't it? He said.
Yeah.
He might not have said anything anyway.
No,
He's
absolutely.
still saying to me that this is like two crafts, two lots of bodies.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
what
certainly
do
what
you
sounds
do on
familiar.
in motorway accidents and car crashes and stuff like that? The first thing you do is take the injured or the dead away before you even touch the car or vehicles or whatever. So that could be the same case here. They took the bodies away first, bang, gone.
Yeah. The only thing you might find slightly suspicious is that Barney told this story to several people. You know, it wasn't just one or two. It was a good half a dozen people that he relayed the story to. So, or maybe it was only with people whom he trusted. But still, he did repeat the story several times, so he couldn't have been super afraid of any repercussions.
But if you tell people things anyway, some people might add things to the stories as well.
But he hasn't done that.
Forget things. So I know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, so he could end up with a different story from somebody else.
Yeah.
It's like whispering in a long queue to whisper something one end, and it gets to the other end. It's a completely different answer.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's a good case.
Carry on.
It's intriguing. Yeah.
Into one authentic account of the events at Roswell and in New Mexico in the summer of 1947. The Foster Ranch site is confirmed, another more interesting site is hinted at, and now there is the likelihood of even another site, much farther away. The sometimes vehement disagreement between noted UFO researchers on the Barney Barnett issue only impedes the search for answers. We must all agree that the specific number of crash sites and the precise location of each may never be conclusively resolved. We must remain open to various scenarios. As rancher Loretta Proctor, who saw some of the debris that rancher Mac Brazel took to her, told me, the craft may have skipped or leaked several times, and that there was more than one location. She says that she doesn't have all of the answers, but she allows that maybe there were even two separate UFOs that crashed during roughly the same time. Perhaps the crash event near Roswell and the one at the plains were the result of two distinctly different UFOs that had fallen not precisely at the same time, but very close to the same time. Or maybe they were more intimately related. Possibly they were crashes from the same skipping or shedding saucer. This would have involved a highly energetic craft with multiple compartments that fell in stages and pieces far and wide in New Mexico. But whatever the exact scenario, Barney Barnett likely fits into the equation, somehow.
Could easily have been a missile launch too that brought down the UFO. You remember the stories about the president meeting the aliens, right? And they demanded this and that, and he said, "Get out of here." And as they flew away, they started firing stuff at it, right? I'm not sure if it crashed or not, but that's the story, isn't it? So,
well,
it makes yeah. It makes sense that a missile could have hit it and the debris come down and that carried on for so many seconds and crashed 200 miles later. But they're only guessing there's two crash sites of different sources, of course.
Would a missile catch them?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they were working on hypersonic missiles, weren't they? So who knows?
Because they're trying to get them as they're coming towards them, anticipating. And by the time they've anticipated where it is, it's gone.
Well, let me just tell you the two main theories of how it came down. Whether there was one or two or more, I don't know. The first one is the thunderstorm, which was particularly violent that night, the night before Mac Brazel found the debris at the Foster Ranch. So that's one thing. It was a lightning strike, but you really think they should be kind of immune to our atmospherics. I don't know if it was a first-time visit, maybe not. The second one was the high-powered radar they were using all over the New Mexico region at the time, because they had nuclear weapons there, of course. Could that somehow have interfered with their propulsion system, or maybe more convincingly, could it have interfered with the navigation system? That's certainly what Kevin Randall puts forward. However, Stanton Friedman always believed there was a collision, mid-air collision, and it was two craft rather than one. But they can argue
UFO crash? Yeah, but why would alien craft crash together? You think they'd have the technology to avoid each other?
Yeah.
Even
Let
at
me just say one
hypersonic
thing, though. Say one thing, though, Paul. If that lightning strike or the high-powered radar, now let's just imagine now they were traveling at 20,000 miles per hour and they were fairly close together. There could have been a whole fleet of them, Now, you imagine just a 1 second or 2 second blackout in your navigation at that speed. That is ample opportunity for all kinds of things to go terribly wrong. And it seems whatever did crash there, something did go awfully wrong.
You'd never have time to do anything, would you?
It certainly wasn't a weather balloon.
Maybe it was. Maybe it collided with a. Hang on. Maybe it collided with a mogul balloon that was coming down.
Hey, you never know.
That actually might be part of the story, actually, when you think about it. So the mogul balloon come down with some alien UFO debris with it, while the rest of the craft crashed further on with the alien bodies in it, or half of them got killed or whatever. Actually, no one's actually ever said that before. Yeah, mogul balloon hit.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, but would a balloon bring it down, no?
No, you wouldn't have thought so, but if it was crashing anyway.
Yeah, but if it crashed into it, right, and tore through maybe a vital part of the UFO at hypersonic speeds, a lightning strike disrupted its controls, smashed into a mogul balloon which come down over Roswell, and the rest of it crashed later on. Maybe the story is there. You never heard of that theory before, but you never know. Kind of makes sense now.
Paul, this is back in Europe now again, yeah? There's those that have said there was actually debris from the balloon plus debris that they just couldn't explain at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe the Out There channel has solved Roswell.
Well, I wouldn't go that far just yet.
We're
I
gonna
don't
have
think we'll ever know what happened there.
History Channel can contact us, and we can put a three day show on, or whatever it is that they just recently did. And give us the copy of the diary, and we'll decode it for you as well. We got the brains here to do it. And we get Bruce Maccabee on board, I'm pretty sure, and Earl Grey will be joining the OT channel. If anyone's got sense out there, right? We want to do it properly. Not run around the desert and interview people. You know, that thing on TV though, and what was it called? History's Greatest Mysteries. That was a real flop.
Yes.
Yes. It was a really disappointment. The memo, they scanned it in high detail, and we only had like 5 minutes on the video on the episode. So what happened to it? You know, obviously it was no better quality than what they already had previously from scans, right? So yeah. And why don't they just make it available to the public? You know, they spend all that money doing it. You put it out to the world's minds, they're more likely to break it than break the codes in the book and also the memo than just a handful of their so-called experts that the government uses. And of course, you can't trust anyone from the government anyway, so it should be made public that then everybody in the world can look at it. But then again, they're probably a bit worried about the Chinese and Russians looking at it, I suppose. And they're pretty good at code breaking, obviously. The Ukrainians especially are really good with mathematics and stuff. I don't know, it's a brain chemistry thing, you know. Certain types of humans are better it's one stream of science than the other in the world, I find anyway. People I have met at university and whatnot from different countries, and of course Indians are really good at the Pacific thing as well.
Scamming.
And now we don't want to be censored. Okay, there's always an exception to the rule. You know, there's it's good and bad in every in any race. Or
of course,
the problem is religion can influence science. So that's the problem. It's always been the problem in the world, and it's still influencing it today. As we found out from To the Stars, that guy that shut down the UFO program because he was religious. You know, and that's always been a problem. Is religion. We need scientific brains, not religious brains. Anyway, we'll just carry on.
Yeah.
Somehow. More. See also, On the Road to Roswell 2007.
It's finished, is it?
A discussion with nuclear physicist Stanton
sure.
T. Friedman, Part 1 On the Road to Roswell 2007. A discussion with...
have we?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Part 1 then. Oh.
Yeah, it's just got comments underneath.
Just comments, yeah.
Is it another page, maybe? No. Oh, right, part
one. No, we are done.
Was that just say part 1?
Yeah, it's talking about another link to
No, there was no more to it, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, let me find...
That's what I know you don't follow SOR anymore, Dave Scott, but apparently he put up the top 10 researchers of 2020, and I think Lou was put up number 1, and second place was Chris Mellon, and a few others on that list. Tim was third, I think, or something like that. But yeah, I don't think they're researchers exactly. Researchers is someone that goes and finds new answers to old UFO cases, or finds science and other information from
at least
new cases.
Jeremy Corbell.
No, that was who did that? MUFON? No, not MUFON. Open Minds, wasn't it? Gave them the rewards.
Yeah, that was terrible.
That was terrible. Yeah. Yeah, but Goofon was saying he should be in that list. He's better than that guy. He's no
Well, hold on a minute. Well,
researcher.
So where was John Greenwald in this? Like, because I think
don't think
John
he was
Greenwald
in. I don't think he was in the list.
No,
maybe you can find. Maybe someone can
space doesn't fit,
find.
that's right.
Maybe someone can find the link now, and we can put it up and have a look if you want.
Hey, we've got Edgy 51 joining us.
Yeah, how's it going, mate? Glad you made it. Yeah. We got like a whole 3 people watching and 2 silent people there. But yeah, that's the thing, you know. What classes a researcher exactly? I would say those guys would be influencers and trying to get disclosure, but not exactly researchers. They're not bringing anything that we didn't know already, right? So researcher would
come
be...
on, these FOIA requests take some doing, Paul. That is research as well.
Is that Chris Mellon and Lou bringing these FOIA requests, though?
No, John Greenwald.
Yeah, but I don't think he was in the list. See if you can find the list.
Okay, well, not now because we're on a case now.
Yeah, right. But just add it in sometime, maybe at the end or next time. But
definitely, yeah.
No,
next week.
Are we researchers because we look at old UFO cases and find things and connections? You know, who's a researcher exactly? Who is a expert? You know, and we all have our little niches, right? Am I expert at video analysis? I would think so by now, but you know, Bruce Maccabee would be one as well. He does calculations, although he's pretty much more old school than new tools, right? I'm in the new tools area. He's in the old school with rulers and measurements and calculations and stuff. But yeah, it changes with time as the technology improves. But yeah, who's a researcher nowadays? You know, I like to think that we're yeah, I would like to think that we making a difference. You know, we're exposing frauds, and we're also junking out some of the rubbish UFO videos that have been put out. Well, most of them, 99% of them anyway. But yeah, I think everybody does their part, but there's some people that add the noise in. Of course, they're the ones that generating the noise. Third Phase of the Moon is #1 at the moment. It used to be Tyler, and they used to be #2, but now it's switched around. And then you got all the copycats following close underneath, right? UFO Man, whatnot. So yeah. Yep. So we got a big long mission ahead here to try and compete with that nonsense. They're the ones making all the money too, and that's the one Google keeps protecting as well, isn't it?
Which is dumb wrong.
You can report them from child abuse and saying that this particular virus is fake and all that sort of stuff, and nothing happens, right? So me and Charles know what we're talking about there, but yeah, Google are hypocrites. And speaking about Google, have you noticed for the last 6 weeks, just as I get up to 2440, it always drops down to 2430 or less. And it's been doing that for every week now. Something going on there, but you've noticed that BitChute is flying upwards still. BitChute is a real... Yeah, BitChute's a real non-messed about video platform where just normal advertising, as soon as you post an episode, you normally get like 5 or 10 subs suddenly join because it's up there and being advertised properly. YouTube, they're messing around. In fact, while we're talking about that, Lions Ground put out a video of a UFO and it got limited by age restriction, and he questioned it, and they replied back saying that they don't like young minds looking into aliens and UFOs. They said it's bad influence. So they've put age restriction of R18 or higher on his video, which was debunking a UFO case. I think it was the noise out there.
That's the time to get them with kids interested, isn't it?
Yeah, because normally our stuff is adult only, which means the age of 13 or higher, is it? On the terminology, or was it 16? I think it might be 16. But yeah, but it's not limited. It's not actually restricted. Yeah, I'm not too sure about this age restriction stuff. What age that talks about there? It's not actually too clear. You'd probably have to look it up. Google age restriction.
I don't think age restriction matters really that much on YouTube because anybody can watch anything on there.
Google age restriction. I think it's 2 levels. You got the R18. Here you go, 13. Oxford. You can create a Google account for your child under 13. I think it's 13 or older. Is it illegal to have Google account 13? How do I remove age restriction? That's no good. So age restriction. So age restriction is 18 or higher, but not suitable for kids. Must be 13 or less, right? You know, they got two things of it. Not suitable for kids, and then age restriction. And it's kind of confusing because remember there's a lot of hoo-ha. There was stuff being promoted to kids from advertisers that shouldn't have been. And so Google had to quickly change that because it was put into law where they can get fined millions of dollars now. And of course that rolled out to all the creators as well. But anyway, I don't want to spend too much on that. Age restricted content.
Oh no, please don't.
But it's good to know because if they're going to put R18 on all UFO channels, maybe that they're using Lion's Ground to start with, and maybe they'll roll it out to all the rest of us on YouTube. You can see that people are going to have to move away. Sometimes content doesn't violate our policy, but it may not be appropriate for viewers under 18. In these cases, we may place an age restriction on the video, so that's what happened to Lion's Ground. And not suitable for kids is the other one. I think that's 13 or older. But yeah, Google always changing the terminology. So we got another link to go there, Robert.
Yes, just before you go there, you know, my idea of a genuine researcher, to be honest, which is something I'd love to be doing if it wasn't for silly COVID and my lack of transport. I only have it sometimes of the year, not all the time.
Going interview
was actually
people?
going out and looking at interviewing people, looking at new cases. And you know, those people like Earl Grey, they may have to look at 50 cases. They find reasonable explanations for what that could have been before they find one that could be extremely interesting and a bit offbeat, you know. So that's really hard work, especially with MUFON. They insist on all the paperwork being done for the cases that are even explained as well. So you know that's hard work and a lot of time and effort. So that's kind of my idea of a researcher. But as you said, there's everyone has their own niche, don't they? You know, whether they're UFO historian, a video photo analyst, or boots on the ground. So it takes and you've got people now like at the SCU Scientific Coalition for UAP study, whatever it is. They've got their own niche as well. They can bring science to the, you know, into the frame. Which is great, but we need all types, and then of course you people like John Greenwald and Paul Dean from Australia, who are putting in FOIA requests like no man's business.
I think MUFON have got their work cut out with the amount of junk that they get.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Right then. I'll leave you a link, Paul. It's there. Whoop. What happened there?
You haven't spilled your point, have you?
No.
Oh.
Just trying to find Dave's thing. Dave Scott, University of Auckland. I don't think he's part of that. UFO. Yeah, not too sure if we can find him. Has he got a website called spaceout.com or something, has he? Can't kind of find it in searches, maybe because it's Google. So, website. What's the website, do you know? Spaced Out Radio. Scientology. I don't want that one.
No.
Yeah, I don't have the link. There we go. .com, yeah. Is it on that page? It probably will be. It's certainly got Goof on all worked up anyway. Probably going to reduce the font, aren't we? Doesn't seem to do much. What's all this crap at the bottom? Why won't it scroll? Alright, here we go. You think it'd be on here, wouldn't you? Top 10. It's got a lot of scrolly things happening. Not the best of websites, is it? What's that down the bottom? God, there's a lot of garbage on here. Ads and stuff, is it? If someone's got the link to it out there somewhere, just post it in the side chat for us. I suppose we better carry on.
Yeah.
What if it would come up?
Don't want to lose too much focus on this case. We can always, have a look on stuff at the end. So we've got a bit to go through yet on this case. I'm sure Charles would like to see the conclusion on it.
Yeah. We own the night. Recent shows. It'd have to be on this page somewhere, I'd say. Anyway, yep. We'll have to come back to it. Did you post the link?
Yeah. A while ago now. I might have to post it again. You've probably lost it in the side chat.
No, I can scroll up.
You got it?
Yeah, looks like Area 51's been busy chatting there. What do we got going on there? Had snow. We're talking about the weather. Always have to talk about the weather. It's now 28 degrees Celsius in this bedroom.
Oh,
That's
he's off again. Shut up.
3 degrees hotter. Yeah, but I'm drying out here. I'll be like a piece of beef jerky soon. I better have a sip of that.
Want warm. We're all flipping after eating on now.
Yeah, but it's good for sleeping though. So we got another video. Who's this? US National Archives. So it should be fine.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well. Just a second. So we've got. Damn, I can't see it now. We've got Jed Roberts, Madeline Strickland, and Alice Knight. Now, the one we're concerned with is Alice Knight.
I've heard of her before.
That's because it came up earlier. This Alice Knight is the niece of Barney Barnett, and she tells a story here at 1 hour 22, I believe.
I've heard of her before.
Yeah.
Not just tonight. I've heard of her previously.
Okay, yeah, you may well have done.
Okay, so I need to check the volume levels on this one. Okay, we'll see how it sounds.
It's probably a bit low.
Yeah. Looks like an old video too.
It is.
I can't hear anything.
I'm Judd Roberts in Roswell.
Oh God. So whereabouts do we go to here?
1 hour,
Radio
22
station
minutes.
here back in those days. Radio station.
That's the maximum volume I can do on the mixer.
And we got word of it with
Not
the
very good, is it?
commander
It's not
himself.
bad.
Word of
It's
the
not bad.
crash. Oh, I beg your pardon, of this UFO. Of course, there was.
Okay, so do we need to have, I've got no closed captions either, so it's going to be a bit harder. Is that where we want to go from? You said you wanted to see the woman.
No, Paul, I keep telling you for the fourth time now, 1 hour, 22 minutes, please.
1 hour and 22. That's at the very end.
Yeah?
Almost had it.
There you go.
There.
That's good enough. Yeah.
Here we go. Hope she's louder.
Our payment for you helping us out.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Okay.
Oh, it's not very good. Alright, let me just
And your name is?
Yeah,
Let me
that's Alice Knight.
we might have to use this add-on then, but it's going to use more CPU, unfortunately.
Yeah, I've got the same one.
Is that her when she was younger?
Okay, we'll try.
No, this is a different person now. This is Alice Knight.
Try 400, see what that sounds like.
Okay.
You can speak up.
Ooh.
It won't hurt. And we're here in Delhart, Texas, on October 1st.
It's
And
not
you
really
were
loud still.
a niece of Barney Barnett.
Of his wife.
And you did I understand that they kind of raised you for a while? Or?
They were, I was real
Bang it all the way,
They
Paul.
babysat me, about
No.
for 2 or 3 years. And they helped spoil me. They did not have any children of their own.
Maximum volume and
So,
everything.
Barney was a civil engineer for the Soil Conservation Service, working in an office in...
Socorro, New Mexico.
His office was in Socorro?
Yes.
Okay.
He was employed by the U.S. government, you know. Okay. Now,
You remember the story that Barney told?
Well, I remember that he saw, one time we went to visit, and I don't know whether it was before my husband and I married or after, I don't recall the dates, but he said that he saw a UFO fall. He was out working in the field, and I understood that he was out in the St. Augustine plain, and he went over to where it was, and where it fell, and he got nearly to the side, and there was a group of people on a geological or archaeological hunt, and they were over there. I don't remember how many people he said, but they got nearly up to this UFO, but it was close enough to see some creatures, or he said they didn't look like human beings out there. And along came a government, or some trucks.
No, with government you mean?
I guess it was government. You know, as I say, it's been a long time ago. But someone came along, and I understood it. I don't know whether it was Army or what. I think he just termed it government trucks, and they told them to go on back and forget they ever saw anything. Now, that's all I recall.
He wasn't specific on whether it was Army or he just said
I
government?
don't recall.
Did he have any clue as to where the archaeologist came from?
He didn't say. If he did, I don't remember. He just said a bunch of young people on a dig.
Did he ever describe the creatures to you?
I don't recall.
He said, did he give you a number? Do you remember if they were?
Right.
And they were all dead.
2, 3.
So far as, you know, they weren't moving.
So he never said that one might have been alive or might have been injured?
No, I don't think he got that close to them. You know, I mean, he didn't get right up to the side. Seems like there was a fence, and they blocked it off. Or they may have had him move back to the fence, I don't know.
But you don't know exactly where this was, other than You think it was up in the...
I feel that it was up in the Daddle or Magdalena, what he termed as the high country.
The high country. And he didn't give you any clue as to what side of the plains it would have been on, or whether it was closer to Daddle or Magdalena?
No. If he did, I don't know. And I don't really think he did.
Did he ever describe the object itself to you? Say anything about that?
Do you know, I don't, you know what, since you've heard about all these others and things, you don't realize, I don't recall if what he said or what has been put into my mind, or, you know, that I, not that anybody's put anything into my mind.
Well, but you
what you've read and
you've read the books, you saw the Unsolved Mysteries program.
About, and things that you've talked about. And there's been talk of UFOs ever since.
But your memories then are just pretty vague about what he'd said.
That's right. Except that I do know that he said he saw a UFO.
And that there were creatures
in it,
and
or
he saw
people or whatever.
So,
and I believe he did describe it as a round thing, but you know, let's say I don't know what.
Do you recall now, in the subsequent years, what his feelings about UFOs were?
No, I don't even recall us talking about it.
What's your feelings about him? What do you think?
Well, since he saw one, I know that it's true.
So you believe, based on what Barney told you,
yes,
that flying saucers are real?
Do you want to pause that, please, Paul?
Beings from other planets? Is that a fair assessment?
I don't know who.
Yeah. So what I like about her, she's only dealing with the facts as she remembers the story being retold to her. Although the researchers are pushing her a little bit for more, she'll only say what she knows. It's not like a person that's trying to spin a story. You're just getting the facts as I recall them, and that's it. You know, that's her attitude. Now, I think the researchers, one of them is Kevin Randall. I can hear his voice clearly. The other one, I'm not sure if it's Donald Schmidt or Tom Carey, or maybe even William Moore or Charles Berlin. I'm not 100% sure on the other one, but one of them's Kevin Randall. Yeah, we hear the end of it, Paul.
They're, I just know that they're real. Or this, yes.
But you trust anything Barney told you on that?
Yes,
order?
I would.
Was he ever known to play practical jokes or spin tall tales or anything like that?
Oh, I don't know that he'd play practical jokes, but not spin tall tales.
So he was very...
But he was serious about this. This was serious.
Did it ever come up more than one time that you remember?
I don't recall.
So, and you have really no clue.
I'm sorry. No, my recall is so poor.
That's fine. That's exactly what we want. Is exactly what you remember, not what others may have said or things that people might have said, but what you recall yourself. So you really have no clue as to when he mentioned this to you, other than it may have been in the 50s.
It was in the middle or latter 40s or early 50s.
Early 50s.
But it'd been real early 50s. I feel like it was before the 50s.
So it might have been 49 or 48. So it might have been right after, close to the time it happened.
No.
Do you remember the context? I'm sure you don't. Remember the context of the conversation, how it came up at all? But it made enough impression upon you that you remembered at least a few of the details. Anything else that you can think of that...
Not a thing.
So you have...
I've tried, you know, to rack my brain to, you know, it seems ridiculous that we didn't discuss it later, and we may have, but I don't recall, and we're all busy, and, you know, you see them maybe a day or two at a time.
What, given what you know, what Barney Barnett said to you, what's your feeling of the government claims that there's no such thing, no validity?
Oh, I just don't have too much of an opinion, except, you know, government. You know the government.
Do you think the government's hiding information about UFOs from us?
They're not.
And this
They
would,
must be. It's obvious if they're the ones who came along and said, be quiet about this.
but Barney did mention the archaeologist.
Yeah.
Did he mention anybody else who might have been there?
No, he just said these people want to dig, and they told us all to kind of forget we saw it.
You don't have any clues to how many people were involved? Nobody else there that...
No, I think he must have been working alone.
Okay, well, this was sure short.
That's right.
That's
I
why
sure don't know much.
That's why I put it on the end of the tape.
I sure don't know much.
But you have no doubt that Barney was telling you the truth about this. Did Barney ever have trouble with the government afterwards? Maybe with the Internal Revenue Service or anything like that? Nothing like that that you can remember? No harassment from the government?
No harassment of any kind that I...
And he retired from the Soil Conservation Commission?
Yes, I think in about 1956 because of poor health.
And then did he stay in Socorro?
He stayed in Socorro until his death
And then...
in 1969. So he was retired at one time.
And Ruth, what?
She moved she stayed in Socorro a year or two after he died, and her health was bad, and so she moved to Dalhart.
And then she passed away.
Passed away here in Dalhart in 1975 or 76. Probably 76.
Did she ever mention this at all? And
No.
Never brought it up?
No, I don't think so. You just went on with what the present.
Wasn't really that major of an event in anybody's life then?
I guess it wasn't, even though you can't imagine it. Now I can't imagine that it was played down. So, but we really didn't discuss it.
Okay.
Well, I even inquired to my friends back then. That we might have come home and told somebody that. They don't remember me telling. Of course, they might have as poor memories as I do.
All right. Well, I think I've probably, they say, taken up enough of your time, so I'm going to...
That's fine.
I'll turn off the camera here. It worked out real well, didn't it?
I don't know.
It wasn't horrible or anything.
It was scary.
It was scary?
Oh, VHS tape there. Yes, I probably need to bring the volume back down. So yeah, what do you want to say on that? Anything?
Yeah, there was one thing there that kind of bothered you a little bit. She was very unsure of the date. She said it may have even been 1948 or 1949. Now, if that was the case, then it wasn't Roswell, but it doesn't mean to say there wasn't another event. But yeah, I mean, she's not saying it wasn't in 1947. She's just saying that I don't recall the exact date.
She's pretty vague on everything, though, isn't she?
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of a good thing because she's not trying to elaborate on the story. I've got a little bit of crackling in. I don't know if it's my headphones. Can I just drop in and out? See if it solves it.
I got no crackling here.
Okay, I'll just drop in and out.
I can't hear it.
I don't think it's the CPU peaking either, but maybe I'm wrong. I guess I found that top 50. You'd think there'd be an index. Articles. Are you there?
Yeah,
let
can
me
you hear me?
Yeah,
let me just reset the mixer. Just. Are we back? Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, let us know if there's any crackle on the live stream, guys. We don't hear it this end, so we rely on the people watching. Sounds alright here to me. Are you alright now?
I can hear Robert cracking.
Yeah, I can hear him moving his microphone or something.
We've got no picture now.
Yeah, it's because he dropped off. I have to change it back. Are you there, Robert?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
So what? Yep, we can hear fine.
Okay.
Can you hear us fine?
Yes.
It's all good then.
Okay, next link.
I got some food here, so I'll probably mute my mic. Anyway,
Please.
Why is it not copying the link though? What's going on with the mic there, Robert? Another video.
Yeah, this is where all the problems come in. This is Gerald Anderson.
Is it the same guy?
A completely separate witness.
No, it's the same people. VHS
Yeah, that's
tapes.
not the same person. This is Gerald Anderson. He also claims he was out on the plains of San Agustin. Yeah, but the only thing is, this is the witness has caused all the problems.
Okay, what's the volume like on it?
We need to play it from the start, Paul. You don't have to play it all, by the way.
Why is it 20 minutes in then?
I don't know why that is. Just take it back. This is Danton Friedman interviewing Gerald Anderson, as you can see.
What do you have? You got one? No. This is
Friedman.
I'm a nuclear physicist with a very strong...
I'll just reset all the audio.
I'm in Kansas City, Missouri, on July 24th.
It's not the best, is it?
I'm here to do an interview with Gerald Anderson, a very important witness with regard to the recovery of a crashed flying saucer in New Mexico in July 1947. We have just had a visit with a polygraph examiner who says he has seen no evidence of deception. This is after spending several hours with myself and Gerald, mostly with Gerald.
Sounds all right.
The full report will be forthcoming.
Yeah.
So with that, we will talk to Gerald Anderson.
I can hear the aircon.
Okay.
I'm just going to mute my mic anyway.
Okay.
Enough. You state your name, please.
My name is Gerald Anderson.
Where were you born and when?
I was born October 4th, 1941, Indianapolis, Indiana.
Okay, and give me a summary of what happened in 1947 with regard to a crashed flying saucer in New Mexico.
Well, we had just moved to...
So that makes him 5 or 6 at the time
July
of the
4th,
event.
1947. This was approximately the day before we went out on the plains of San Agustin with my Uncle Ted, my cousin Victor, my father, my brother Glenn, and myself. We drove down to the Plains of San Agustin, which is west of Socorro, New Mexico, in the Magdalena Daddle area, and we were down there looking for banded and moss agate, which, according to my Uncle Ted and my cousin Victor, was prevalent in the area. My brother, being an amateur rock hound, wanted to get some of this, and it was a way of showing us around the area. And they had relatives down in Magdalena that they wanted to introduce us to. So we had gone down there, and we got down in the Horse Springs area and had driven off onto the plains down an old rutted road for a mile or so, and seemed like a long ways. We parked the car, got out of the car, and walked down a hillside. A semi-forested, I guess you could say. It had pinon trees and scrub oak and stuff like that on it. And we'd walked well, not scrub oak, but cedar, and walked down the hillside into an arroyo, a dry wash, and then walked south down a dry wash toward where the agates were supposed to be at. And as we came around a bend in the arroyo that had pinon and cedar trees growing on it, we were able to see farther ahead down the arroyo, and on the next ridge line there was a large silver disc-shaped object was embedded in the side of the ridgeline, and there was debris and wreckage and stuff strewn about the area, but mainly this thing was intact. I would estimate its size from an adult perspective to be something like 35 feet in diameter. I've heard other people who were there say they thought it was like 50 feet, but as an adult, I would say about 35 feet in diameter, quite large. When we got up to it, there were 4 bodies there, not human. There was 2 of them who were obviously dead. One of them was obviously very badly injured, and one of them apparently suffered no ill effects, or didn't appear to be injured, and was ambulatory, was mobile. I was just sitting there next to the one that was still alive that appeared to be badly.
Were they right next to the vehicle?
Right next to it, right under the edge of it. And this craft had apparently come in from the east, bounced off one ridge line, went plowing through this arroyo area, and then crashed into the ridgeline and embedded itself. And they were sitting back under the edge. It was kind of tilted up like this, and they were sitting back under the edge here. And I'm assuming that this one creature that was all right had laid this material on the ground, but it looked like unrolled tinfoil that these other 3 creatures were laying on, like it was trying like you do a person in shock, and put them on a blanket, kind of a thing. And apparently it had some boxes there around it, and had apparently been trying to give first aid or help these other creatures when we first got there. And as we approached, the creature drew back like this, like it was in fear of us, like we were going to hurt it. And it wasn't very long, trying to communicate with it. The adults were. It seemed to calm down and just sat there and kind of looked back and forth, watching them, apparently trying to figure out what was going on. Like,
what did it look like a little bit more?
These creatures, all of them were about 4 foot tall, 4.5 feet tall. They had very large heads that were shaped larger on the top, and they kind of tapered down. Not to a real sharp point, but just tapered down where they were thin. And they had very large, oval-shaped or almond-shaped, I guess you could say, black eyes. They were so shiny, they had almost a bluish tint to them when the light reflected off of them. Their skin coloration, I think the best way I could describe that is kind of a bluish tinted milky white. It looked like someone in shock. And the ones that were laying on the ground were really looked more that way, more blue.
Paul.
How about ears, nose, mouth?
No, there was no visible ears.
Okay then, so what do you guys think so far, Charles?
I think it's a real case. The bodies. Oh yeah, that's why I look. I said that.
Hello?
Hello?
Okay, I can't hear you guys at the moment. But for
was,
me,
you was crackling.
this is far too much detail for a 5 or 6-year-old.
Can you hear us, Robert?
Going into specific details here seems to remember this crash inside out. And the guy as well, okay, he's passed the lie detector test. And I don't know who conducted that test, whether they brought their own people in. I don't know. But okay, I can hear you, Paul.
Yeah, I forgot I had it muted. Yeah, I was going to say exactly the same thing. Well, you were saying, that your problem was too much detail for the age, 6 years old.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I said exactly the same thing, but I forgot my mic was muted.
Okay, I can't hear Charles. Charles still with us?
Yeah, I'm with you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear him fine.
I can't hear him at all.
Yeah, well, I said you was making
what the hell?
Crackling a lot in your video.
Okay, let me just maybe he needs to Charles needs to drop out then. Let me just reset it here. Okay, we're back. Is Charles there? Hello.
No, I'm still not Charles.
Will the real Charles stand up?
Yeah, now I can hear you, I think.
Can you hear me, though?
Well, Robert?
Yeah,
Robert.
hi, okay, you're back. Yeah, you're back.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I know when this thing was going on, you was crackling quite a bit, you was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard you blowing on your mic as well.
Yeah, I had a bad connection, sorry about that.
That's why I had quiet.
Yeah. So I was saying the same thing. How much do you remember when you were age 6? Not much at all. You know, if he was older, then I more believe it. If it was like maybe 12 or older.
Yeah, you remember a lot more then.
Yeah, but then again, if it's something that shocks your memory, I think you're more likely to recall bits of it, but in that great
but as
detail.
But as a 5-year-old kid, would that shock you?
You'd have thought so.
I don't know. Would you take it seriously?
Seeing aliens with big eyes, I would say so. And skin color, I think you'd remember that, but all things that were said and all that, I don't think so.
All the other details about all the silver foil and stuff like that, and the boxes.
See, the problem here as well is this is a 1991 interview, so all the details of the case were out in the public domain.
Yes, they could have got it from that.
Yeah, and not only that, he actually read the book that was done by Bill Moore, Stanton Friedman, and I think it was Berliner. It was the other guy, UFO Crash at Roswell. I think that was called. It was the first ever book. I think he'd also seen something that was on the there was a documentary. I think it was Unsolved Mysteries. He'd seen that as well, and that's when he actually came forward and says, "Oh, I was there."
Yeah,
and he even says he met Barney Barnett when he was there, as well as the archaeologists. But Barney Barnett certainly never mentioned any child in his story whatsoever. Only adults, only the archaeology team. No other family, and certainly not a child.
So why would he be making up the story? Is the question. Why would he?
Well, yeah, exactly. And then you get into the big debate with Kevin Randall and the infamous phone bill, which we'll look at in a bit. I don't know if you've heard enough of him now. If you want to play a bit more, it's entirely up to you.
Yeah, my back's just a wee bit tender at the moment.
Oh, okay, ouch.
I'm just reorganising here after eating. So carry on with this interview, did you say?
Yeah, do you want to play a bit more? It's entirely up to you guys how much more you want to listen to him, if you believe him.
On the creatures, except like if you was just to cover your ear like this, to where there was just a rise there and then a hole, without your earlobe and the rest of the ear.
Let's come up
about nose. It was the nose was very, very small, almost imperceptible, and just like 2 holes straight in, and the lips were just a straight line. It was like a cut. And
he saw on TV.
Lips like we have, it was just a slit.
I already remember that.
But never made a sound.
Yeah.
Pardon?
What hair color?
There was no hair. They were completely bald.
And no sounds?
I never heard a sound of one, not out of any of the creatures, including the one that was...
Did you see fingers?
Yeah, they had fingers like this. They didn't have a little finger. They just had the thumb, had 3 extra digits, except the center digit was longer.
Okay, so you're doing memory recall when he's asked questions. Have a look at his body language.
It looked very delicate.
That sounds like
I made the statement before, and I'll make it again. I think it would have made excellent biology.
Can't even see his eyes.
Because of the structure of their hands. They were wearing one-piece suits. All of them were dressed exactly the same, and it was sort of a real shiny, silverish gray color.
No zippers, buttons?
No, I saw no zippers, no buttons.
Insignia?
No insignias. The only thing that was different, they all had this, but the only thing that was different from the silvery gray suit was that down like the seam on it, like it was a seam on the shoulder, and around the collar it was trimmed in what appeared to be maroon, like cording. Then the suits were continuous with their footgear. You could see
Notice
right
he's
about
always
this
looking
area
down.
It seemed to be less pliable than it was up here. Like this was a stiffer area, like it
That could indicate memory
they were all
recall.
dressed exactly the same.
No.
Okay, so you and your
Internal
family
dialogue.
are talking back and forth, wondering what was going on. What did your family say? I mean, did they say anything?
Yeah, my brother, one of the first remarks I heard he made was, that's a goddamn spaceship.
He's quoting a story here. Just look at the eyes. Left, right, and looking
How old was
down.
your brother at the time?
He was in his early 20s, I think 20, 21.
He's not looking
He was a lot
upwards
older.
from what I see.
Considerably. When we got up there, I kind of meandered off to one side. This thing was cocked up, and I was standing here. The bodies were here, and everybody else was kind of down here, except my cousin Victor was over here playing and looking in this gaping hole on the side of this disc, and it's shaped just like a discus, except for a round dome was up on top, and there was this big gaping gash in here where you could see inside, and it looked like a double hall.
How big length?
The
gash.
dome.
The gash.
Well, it covered the greater majority from
He
the
did
center of the
memory
back.
recall there, but he was looking in the wrong direction.
And I'm thinking, it's like about 30 feet, 35 feet in diameter, so we're talking, 17 feet maybe.
Uh-huh.
And most of that one side was ripped open like that, and you could see inside, and you could see another double hull, like in there, and there was these rows of components.
That's a lot of memory recall for a 6-year-old.
Flashed.
No, I was just going to say that. So the hell
Steady
he's going to remember all this.
There was a lot of debris and stuff.
He's making up a
hanging out
story
of the hole.
here for sure.
Yeah.
There was evidence that there had apparently been fire. It looked like it had been burnt.
You've seen a lot of sci-fi films.
The gash.
Now, this wasn't a gash that could have been caused by the thing coming into the ground. It wasn't at the leading edge of the vehicle.
No, this was in the side, like, it almost appeared, it was elliptical. It almost appeared as if something the same shape as the disc we were looking at.
There's no memory recall
that
here.
same, it hit the disc and left an imprint that pretty closely approximated the outside diameter of the disc itself. And it appeared to be caved inward.
Okay.
And kind
He's
of
just retelling the story.
I guess it just crumpled and caved in and ripped it open.
Okay, so you're there, you take all this and everybody's mystified. What were the circumstances outside? Hot, cold?
Very, very hot. Well, to me, being the first time in New Mexico and coming from back east, that dry heat was just like being inside of an oven. It was unbelievable to me. And that was the odd part about this thing. The closer you got to it, the cooler it was. And standing under it in the shade there, next to these creatures' bodies, it was like refrigerated air conditioning. And
did you feel air coming out of this thing? Or
no, it was just like it was ambient. And I remember reaching up and putting my hand on the side of it, and I think I was afraid it was going to hit my head because there was enough room for me as a small child, I was approximately the same size as these creatures to walk up under there and stand in it, but I kind of did like that, put my hand up against this thing.
What did it feel like?
It was ice cold. It felt like it just came out of a freezer.
Was it smooth? Was it rough?
It was very smooth. It had a very smooth texture to it. It was obviously made out of metal. It was very solid.
I haven't seen them look once and pause.
And there was a smell in the area.
Because you normally go and look upwards and think, oh yeah, it was cold.
And that seemed to be coming out of that gas.
It's like he's told this many times before.
But the closer you got to this thing, the cooler it was. So I kind of remained there, and I guess that while they were over here, my father and my Uncle Ted.
Certainly a good storyteller, anyway.
Uncle Ted was trying to talk to this thing in Spanish, and of course it didn't understand a word he said. And Dad tried to talk to it, and then they tried, sign language, and that didn't work. And I don't know, for some reason, I just, I reached down and touched it.
So why wasn't it telepathic communication then?
When I touched it, I realized, I jumped back.
That's what we're here on.
It scared me, it startled me, because I suddenly realized that these weren't dolls. I thought they were plastic dolls. And I was still in my mind that these are moving dolls until I touched it, and I realized, this was a dead thing. I'd seen dead relatives before, and I unfortunately had made the mistake one time of touching a relative that was in a casket, and I just knew this was a dead thing. And it scared me, and I ran around behind my father and my uncle, and this thing was sitting there on the ground, and it kept looking back and forth, and it just had its hands like it's flapping.
That's the first time he's looked up.
Between the three of them, and like it was trying to understand, and all of a sudden it just turned and looked right straight at me between my Uncle Ted and myself. And this is when it was just like an explosion of things in my head, things I started, feeling just terrible depression and loneliness and fear and just, awful feelings that just suddenly burst into my mind. And I don't know
telepathic.
That it was communicating with me, and I was the only one there I could communicate with because I was a kid. I don't know. I turned and ran, and I ran across the arroyo and up on the area that it had bounced off of during the crash. And we're just standing there looking down at this scene, and my family, and off in the distance I could see.
Did they ever put him on a lie detector?
I could see a windmill, and
yes,
I could see dust trails out on Playa, out on the plains out there. And I was there for a little while, and then I came back down, and I guess we were there,
Mind you, what were the questions?
Victor was when I got back down there, Victor was up in the crack, and Ted yelled at him to get out of there, and Glenn went over and grabbed him by the belt and jerked him off.
Get you on pause, Paul.
And jerked him off and said, get out of here, and cause this thing to explode and kill us all, And of course, he went prowling around in there.
Yep.
Yeah, it was, as I understand it now, please don't quote me 1,000,000% on this because I'm not 100% sure, but I'm fairly sure that it was actually Stanton Friedman who brought in the lie detector guy.
Right. And you ain't got a list of questions he was asked?
No. I think that is in the next article that we've got to finish up this case, yeah. I don't believe that the list was particularly extensive. It was, but I don't think a lie detector, you shouldn't have more than 5 questions,
But as we were saying in the Walton case, did you have a blood test? See if he had drugs in him, so he could pass the test.
Well, yeah, that's okay with Travis Walton, but it wouldn't have worked with Gerald Anderson because he's telling his story now in the 90s, and when the incident happened in 1947. So obviously, when he was 5 or 6, he's not going to have drugs in his system anyway, is he really?
Yeah, but I'm saying
No. No, you normally have a blood test to make sure they're not trying to dupe the lie detector test. That's what Charles is saying.
Yeah. That's what I mean now. When he's telling the story now.
You normally do a drug test before you do the lie detector tests, and you get the two reports back.
Saying last night, you could take cough medicine or anything like that that'll help you pass the test.
Oh God, yeah, just something like a beta blocker, which would calm your nerves. Yes, it would fool the reading, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Which is making you out to be telling the truth, wouldn't it?
2 puffs of weed and 2 puffs of weed and some cough mixture, and away you go. Lie under the sun.
I'm not sure weed would be the best because that actually accelerates the heart rate, believe it or not. Although you actually feel calmer. I'm not sure how that would work. But anyways, yeah, something like a beta blocker would certainly help you pass.
Yeah, apparently if you clench your butt, that's another way too. Like you're on the toilet, like you're squeezing all the time.
Yeah.
You know, especially these early detectors apparently as well. Yes, I'd rather have the body language guys look at them, but then again, they normally need a video of them for base, right? So they need to see how he normally acts with normal questions and just talking to them. But yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you got deception while you're looking at this video.
I just, do you know, I just got the impression from just looking at him that I wasn't particularly reading any specifics of the body language, but the guy just looks a little bit shady to me, you know?
Yeah. I agree.
He's got that lean to his head there too, and he's always looking down to the left, and that's normally not a good sign. That's internal dialogue happening there. Oh, as you're creating a story, right? Am I telling it correctly? You know, the right facts in the right order.
Like you said, he only looked up once.
Yeah, when he was talking about seeing something upwards.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more to body language though. You normally have to get a baseline of someone, and then see how they deviate from it. Apparently, but to me, he's telling a story that he's told many times here. He seems to have the answers there on his fingerprint. He doesn't say, "Oh, hang on a minute, I just have to think about it." You know, he's not paused anywhere there. And then look upwards. You know, you normally put your hand up and look upwards to memory recall sometimes, and try and bring back the visual information.
Yeah, which is like what I said. He's told this story before many times.
Maybe he's trying to get a book written out of it and a movie deal, you know. Maybe he has already, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he made any money from it, but like I don't know how much more of this interview you want to listen to. I think we've seen enough, personally.
Yep, we can move on.
Okay.
Next link.
Yeah, 2 seconds.
Just reset this. We got 2 hardcore watchers out there. Who's out there at the moment? It's Area 51 still.
I don't know who's out there. I don't know who's there anyway now, because it keeps popping off anyway, because it's a good job.
Yeah, I don't think we can always trust the Twitch stats, but you know, plus or minus 2 or 3 maybe with normal.
Okay, links there.
Yeah, got it up, haven't I? Mr. Anderson.
Let's have a look.
Gerald Anderson. He's the one that did Thunderbirds, isn't it? Was it
yeah,
right
but
name?
This is the same Gerald Anderson that we've just been seeing.
Didn't I say that to you before we started?
Yes, he did, before Paul came on, yeah.
Right. Well, I didn't hear that. Great minds think alike there, Charles. Yeah. So you want just to keep on reading this now, or what?
Yeah, and you'll see all the controversy this guy has caused now.
Okay, let's see if it picks up the right bits.
Gerald Anderson.
Very far good.
Site index.
Loud enough?
Send us a comment about this page.
Oops.
The witnesses.
Major
Jesse Marcel.
In the contents table.
Mac Brazel.
Okay, we got this.
Don't leave that wall of shame thing out, please, if you can.
It's not going to let me. I don't think. Let's have see.
Okay then.
No, look. Damn it. Let's see, we have to do one chunk at a time.
Yeah, that's best.
Maybe.
Just triple click on the paragraphs, Paul, and you get it all in one. You don't have to do it the way
Oh,
you're
no.
doing it. There's an easier way.
Yeah, you say that, and then all sorts of things go chaotic. Have we got the volume loud enough for the reader now? I had to readjust it. Oh damn! What have I just clicked on? Let me just check.
Shortly after an Unsolved Mysteries television show about Roswell, a man from Springfield, Missouri called the show's producers on the 800 number that they had set up. Gerald Anderson announced that he had additional information about the crash at Roswell, and that he was willing to talk about it. This message was passed along to Roswell researchers Kevin Randle and Stanton Friedman. The Wall of Shame, it appears Gerald Anderson, in still another vain attempt to enhance his status, has claimed
Microsoft. Did I have that one selected? No.
No, you didn't know.
Come on. You say double
Triple
click.
click on it, Paul. Just right click 3 times and you'll get it all.
I did that, man.
There you go. So
You want to come here? You want to come here and do it?
On February 4th, 1990, Kevin Randle was the first to do a phone interview with Anderson. Randle did not find the story told by Anderson to be very credible. However, Stanton Friedman later interviewed Anderson for the first time on February 16, 1990, and Friedman thought his tale was very convincing. Randle claims that Gerald Anderson was 5 years old in July 1947. Friedman says that Anderson was really 6 at the time. Despite the years since the event and his extreme youth, Anderson said he still remembered everything in fantastic detail.
Now what?
The first story, story he told Randle and Friedman was that he, his brother Glenn, his father, his uncle Ted, and his cousin Victor, all of whom have passed away, had gone out to the Plains of San Agustin, New Mexico to find some moss agates. He gave the date as July 5, 1947. It was there that they came across a crashed spaceship. Lying next to the ship were its 4 passengers. 2 of them were not moving, 1 was having trouble breathing, and the 4th appeared to be unhurt. His descriptions of these beings were that they were small, with eyes that were oval-shaped and very, very big. They were a bluish color. Not blue like in human eyes. Sort of a milky blue. He said he had felt the spaceship, and found that was quite cold. He said it was freezing.
I'm just popping to the toilet.
Almost immediately after finding the crash, he went on. 5 college students, and their professor, who Anderson identified as Dr. Buskirk, came upon the scene. They had been working on some cliff dwellings only a few miles away. Shortly after they got there, another man named Grady Barney Barnett joined them, and he was closely followed by the military, who appeared to be following Barnett. The second-hand stories from Barnett don't mention Anderson or his family. Something which Friedman, who believes both stories, chooses to ignore. The story continues. In December 1990, Anderson gave an interview to the Springfield New Leader. In this interview, he revealed that he had a diary written by his Uncle Ted that had been passed on to him when his father died. This diary contained further details about the crashed saucer. Curiously, Anderson had neglected to mention this diary to Randle and Friedman when they first interviewed him. Then on March 24, 1991, Anderson appeared on the 21st Century Radio's Hieronymus and Company radio program hosted by Bob Eshore. Anderson repeated his story and again described the finding of the ship, the aliens, and the arrival of the military. But now, some changes appear in his memories. Now, the arrival of the college students and Dr. Buskirk comes about 45 minutes later, not shortly as he had earlier remembered. He was able to remember now that they came from the University of Pennsylvania. And the aliens' appearance had altered considerably. Anderson had first told Randle that the eyes were milky blue. Now he said the aliens' eyes, were enormous. They were very black and very large. Other changes to his earlier testimony appeared also. Anderson's story became the centerpiece of the book Crash at Corona by Friedman and Don Berliner in 1992. He also commanded almost 30 minutes of the 105-minute video Recollections of Roswell 2 made in 1992.
Yeah, so Kevin Randall was a big proponent of it was the same object that crashed in two different locations. Stanton was the proponent that two collided in the air. Now that suits Friedman's narrative much more. This is why he used this guy's Anderson's statements in his book Crash at Corona. And this is where Randall had disagreements with Friedman, and there was a kind of a fallout, to say the least. So Randall doesn't believe that the crash at San Agustin had anything to do with Roswell at all. Friedman does. So you can see why he's included
So he's saying
the Anderson statement, although he later went back on it and removed his statement from a revised edition of his book. But he still went to his death actually, Stan, actually believing that Glenn Anderson was telling the truth. He says he has lied about some things, but he didn't lie about that day. I'm not convinced. I'm absolutely convinced this guy is full of it.
Sounds full of it.
Yeah.
So what you're going to say, Charles?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I still think that there was two crafts.
Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah. But the dates are the essential thing.
Yeah, I know.
No, I get the story right. A UFO crashed into a mogul balloon.
Okay.
We've solved it. Roswell is solved. James Fox will want to interview us. How we come up with that conclusion. Anyway, carry on.
Dr. Buskirk, Stanton Friedman arranged for Anderson to take a polygraph test, which was paid for by Pfeiffer. Robert Riggs, a member of the American Polygraph Association, was the examiner. One of the questions asked was if Anderson had seen Dr. Buskirk since the incident when he was 5 or 6 years old. Anderson replied no, and Riggs did not see any deception in the reply. Indeed, Riggs informed Friedman that he had not found any evidence of deception by Gerald Anderson, nor any of pathology. Meanwhile, Tom Carey, a researcher living in Pennsylvania, began an effort to look up the archaeologists. Carey reasoned that he would have written about the trip and the results of his studies of the cliff dwellings. When he found Dr. Winfred Buskirk, it turned out that he had been working on his Ph.D. dissertation in the summer of '47, which was later published as the Western Apache. Dr. Buskirk denied ever being in New Mexico in 1947. I was in Arizona all of July 1947. I was certainly too busy on the reservation, Fort Apache Indian Reservation, to be engaged in any archaeological sideshow. Anderson had earlier produced an identikit sketch of the man he called Dr. Buskirk. This sketch was shown to Dan McKnight and his wife, who were friends of Dr. Buskirk. They easily identified the sketch as Win Buskirk. When told about Dr. Buskirk's summer in Arizona, Anderson altered his story somewhat, saying that the archaeologist's name was Adrian Buskirk. But the description he had given, the identikit sketch, and other details all fit Winfred Buskirk perfectly. It was then that it was found out that Gerald Anderson had attended Albuquerque High School at the same time Dr. Buskirk was a teacher there. Anderson at first denied this, claiming he couldn't even remember what high school he had attended. When Kevin Randall showed beyond any doubt that Anderson had attended Albuquerque High, he asked Anderson to provide him with a transcript, but Anderson refused. Instead, he gave a copy of his transcript to John Carpenter. Friedman had previously arranged for psychiatric social worker John Carpenter to work with Gerald, which he did for more than a year. Carpenter was highly impressed by Anderson, and had become convinced that he was telling the truth. The transcript Anderson gave Carpenter showed that he had taken a sociology course at Albuquerque High, not anthropology. He steadfastly refused to give this transcript to anyone else. But Dr. Buskirk was able to learn from friends he had at Albuquerque High School that Gerald Anderson was in my anthropology class the first semester, then, according to the transcript, took a French class the second semester. Uncle Ted's Diary. Gerald Anderson first revealed the existence of his Uncle Ted's diary in his interview with the Springfield News Leader. He later turned over portions of the diary to the researchers, who found out that Uncle Ted was not very accurate. For instance, he recorded the official explanation that the Roswell saucer was just a balloon appeared in the Albuquerque newspapers on July 5. The military gave this explanation out on July 8, but most papers did not publish this until their July 9 editions. And Uncle Ted's diary identified the location of the crash as near Magdalena, New Mexico. Gerald later insisted that the site was near Horse Springs, NM, some 60 miles away. The diary was then submitted to Richard Brunel for forensic tests. Brunel wrote a letter to Friedman on October 18, 1990, saying that while the paper could have been available in 1947, the combination of dyes present in this ink was not used until approximately 1970. Gerald's explanation was that his brother Glenn and Uncle Ted had occasionally copied the diary. Unfortunately for this story, Uncle Ted had passed away before this ink was made. No other copy of the diary has since come to light to back up Gerald Anderson's claims. The phone bill. As the discrepancies were being revealed, Kevin Randall was becoming a vocal critic of Anderson and his story. In response, Anderson produced a phone bill, which he claimed showed that Randall was lying about the length of the phone interview he had given back on February 4, 1990. Randall had said that it lasted more than 50 minutes, but the phone bill Anderson was showing said it lasted less than 30 minutes. Trouble was, Randall had a tape of the phone interview, which was clearly over 50 minutes. John Carpenter, who had been a staunch supporter of Gerald, checked with the phone company, and was able to produce the original statement, which clearly indicated that Anderson had altered the phone bill he was offering as proof. Carpenter wrote, "I finally was able to learn that Gerald had indeed had a friendly 54-minute phone call, just as Randall had claimed."
Okay, back.
Anderson finally had to admit that he had indeed altered his statement.
Yeah, so he's been caught out big time here. But this opens another can of worms. Now, Randall interviewed him in a phone interview. And the reason Randall proved him wrong was because he was recording the interview. But Anderson didn't seem to be aware that he was being recorded at the time. Now, that is another moral debate, isn't it? You know, if somebody phoned you asking for a phone interview, they really should be telling you if they're going to record that interview. It seems the impression I'm getting here is that Randall didn't inform Anderson that he was recording it.
Well, you normally ask you ask the permission, and it's actually on the recording itself. So and then you start the interview, right? Is it all right to record this? And the guy says yes, and then you start the interview, right? So,
but obviously Anderson didn't know he was recording it, otherwise he would have never debated the length of the call, because he knew he would have been caught out.
Yeah, but aren't there bigger recorders in them days, not little tiny things like I did these days? So he'd have had to seen it.
No, not if it was over the phone. There's no way Anderson could have seen it, no?
Oh, no. True. Yeah. True.
But,
it would have been a reel to reel or something, probably.
Noise.
Yeah.
I don't know. What
did he get caught out on? What did he get caught out on again? Because I missed it because I was putting the econ on.
Okay, well, Anderson claimed that the phone call lasted less than half an hour. Randall said it was over 50 minutes.
Right.
And yeah, he actually hoaxed the phone bill. He altered his phone bill to try for Anderson to try and prove his case.
Why would you do that though?
No, why
just
on earth
agree?
exactly? Yeah, because at the time, Randall and Anderson had fallen out, just for the simple reason that Randall doubted his story and he was openly criticising Anderson, you see. So his dad didn't even talk to him for that long. Well, he did. And he actually altered the phone bill. So that, I mean, come on, if you can alter a phone bill, you can lie about anything, can't you?
We've got Tommy on the site. How's it going?
Oh, hi, Tommy.
Hi, Tom.
You're a wee bit late to the party. We've been getting 2 hours and 20 minutes so far, so you want us to carry on this one?
Yeah, you may as well finish this.
We're going to have to get onto that alien abduction case next, is it?
Yes, I know, yeah.
A more detailed account of the hoaxed phone bill, including photocopies of the phone bills, can be found in the July/August 1992 International UFO Reporter. John Carpenter added we now knew 4 things about Gerald Anderson. 1. He was capable of constructing a clever fake phone bill. 2. He had admitted lying to us about the first phone bill. 3. He had just been caught lying to all of the gathered researchers about this 28-minute phone bill, which means that he had just constructed another phony. And 4. Gerald was now avoiding us. Epilogue: Stanton Friedman and Don Berliner finally were forced to disavow their star witness in a letter to the editor published in the January 1993 issue of the MUFON UFO Journal. They publicly stated that they no longer have confidence in the testimony of Gerald Anderson, who claims to have stumbled upon a crash site with members of his family. Anderson has admitted falsifying a document, and so his testimony about finding wreckage of a crashed flying saucer near the Plains of San Agustin in western New Mexico can no longer be seen as sufficiently reliable. However, Friedman and Berliner went on, this does not mean we feel there was no crash at the Plains of San Agustin. There is considerable impressive testimony to such an event. Nor does it mean that everything reported by Gerald Anderson is without value. The editor of the journal, Dennis Stacy, rightly commented, although it strongly suggests it. Epilogue number 2. 5 years later, there appeared this repudiation of the repudiation. In 1998, Stanton Friedman wrote, however, despite the negative comment by Don Berliner about some problems with Gerald, at the beginning of the second edition of Crash at Corona, I am still a Gerald Anderson booster. Though not so much of a Don Berliner booster. I saw Gerald in Roswell in 1997, I think. I was in his home with an Argentinian reporter arranged by me. I was disappointed about the phone bill business, as Gerald knows. But I have still defended him to various and sundry, including fiction writer and anti-abduction propagandist Kevin Randall. When it was pointed out that this was indeed different than what had been published before, Friedman wrote,
those two had a fight, didn't they?
I had forgotten the MUFON Journal letter. In 1993. Yes, I have definitely not fully accepted that position. And yes, I do have problems with some of John Carpenter's activities. The phone bill was the fraudulent document.
That John Carpenter, he's not also that movie director, is he?
No.
Different Carpenter?
No, he's not.
Carpenter. Not related, or
yes. Not related, no.
Because he did a lot of sci-fis, didn't he, if I remember right?
Yes,
John Carpenter.
I think his most famous film was The Thing. Remember the base in Antarctica?
Yeah, that was a good movie.
It was?
Yeah. But it's not that one.
I was probably at fault for keeping Gerald appraised of the nefarious activities of Randall, which would have made anybody ready to trick Randall. I perhaps should add that I liked Gerald, and that Berliner wrote the letter, and almost all of Crash at Corona. There were well over 20 pages that I had written and wanted in. No such luck. I also wanted more in the extra chapter in the 1997 50th anniversary edition of Crash at Corona. No luck.
My Corona.
He was furious with me about top secret / magic, because the SOM 1.01 report was partially included. Additional sources of information: Crash at Corona by Stanton Friedman and Don Berliner, Paragon.
Yeah, but just to finish it all off, do you want to scroll back up a bit, Paul? To that piece that was on the side. This wasn't the only. Yeah, have a look at this. The Wall of Shame. The guy claimed to be a Navy SEAL, and he got caught again.
Where's the reader? Continue.
The Wall of Shame. It appears Gerald Anderson, in still another vain attempt to enhance his status, has claimed falsely that he was once a member of the U.S. Navy's elite SEALs. The SEALs take enormous offense when people try to cash in on the reputation the real SEALs worked so hard to earn. They have put up a website to publicize those who falsely claimed membership in this very exclusive organization. The Cyber SEAL website note: early in 2005, the SEALs running the Ofentai SEAL closed the site due to lack of funds, age, and an ever-increasing workload. The above link will take you to an archived copy of that site, and the page where Gerald Anderson is listed.
Yeah. I've clicked the link, 1990. And his name is there.
Could it be another one?
No, it wasn't. It was him. 100% it was him. Gerald Francis Anderson. Yeah. It wasn't another one. It was him.
Right.
And you can click on the link quickly if you want, and it shows you exactly what he was doing. Okay, scroll down until you find his name. It'll be Anderson first, and then.
No, that's not it.
Keep going. It's not far down.
Rod Anderson. There's only one Anderson here, though.
Yeah. I think you've passed it. You know.
I think it's above them ones.
Yeah, I think you're going too quick.
Come on up. Keep going.
Should be here. There it is.
No. There we go. That's the one. See the comments there.
False claim SEAL.
Yeah. After being warned to stop the lies, our source found the flyer at the college offering a survival course by ex-Navy SEAL. So, this guy didn't just tell lies, he was looking to profit from those lies as well. It's really shameful. Date posted 2000. So, while Stanton was still kind of supporting him in a way, he wouldn't have been even aware of this.
Well, anybody who does that sort of thing should be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. False claim there too. Are they all false on this page?
Oh yeah, of course, but they're all different individuals.
Yeah, we get a lot of this false claims for some reason.
Stolen valor, yeah.
They should be jailed. They should be jailed. Simple as that.
Yep.
I mean, my God, man, them soldiers have to work hard for them stripes. I'm telling you now.
I tell you what, just as well, Charles is not the president of the United States. You'd have goof on and lashes and all sorts of people.
All up against the wall.
Yeah.
All up against the wall with a foreign.
You'd have them all shots, and then
goof on would be the first in line.
And you'd be in trouble with Nancy Police. What's her name?
Pelosi. I don't give a damn.
They'd call you racist. They'd call you racist if they got Mexican blood in them. But anyway, where to now? We've got another link to go.
Yeah, we're down on that case now. So, for me, I think Barney Barnett's story could well have been real. It's just the same. It's a shame that this guy came along and muddied the waters. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, it could. It
And when he was
like
talking about,
but it makes sense that this guy could be like a disinformation artist, right?
I don't think so. I think he was just. I think he just seen unsolved mysteries, read the book, and thought, "I'm going to jump in here," because you remember now he had interviews with several radio stations. He could well have been getting paid a few quid for those, you know.
Which is what I was saying last night about Travis.
Yeah.
Getting paid a lot for all the things he was doing.
Well, Travis has made a living off his story, no question.
But so many people believe him. Anyway, well, but you could say 2 million people believe Tyler Klockner too.
And still do.
And they haven't unsubbed, which is kind of strange.
All sitting there waiting for him to start up again.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Gullibles is money in the bank, unfortunately, and it's never going to change. Unless they come to the Out There channel, of course, they might get a wake-up call, maybe, if they accept what we say. But anyway, yeah, I'm just waiting for that link, I guess. Have we got one up already?
Yes, okay, I'll send that to you now. This is
right.
the Rey Hernandez interview on abductions.
Let's see if the subs have gone backwards.
If we get more people on the channel, you might get more donations. Not really getting anything now.
It's always money going out, not coming in, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay, let's leave this link for you. I'm hoping to God that you'll be able to open this. I had to use a proxy to unlock it.
Hey, the subs have gone up. Okay. Now, I can change. I can switch it to a proxy if I need to. But at the moment, I've got it straight through at the moment.
Yeah, but I think it's only blocked for European users, you know. So
yeah, you've been censored.
But I was able to unblock it. Yeah.
Because I don't trust the Europeans.
Yeah.
It's hard to know who to trust nowadays, actually.
I know.
Money. So, like, what was it? The richest in the world got $1,700 billion richer, apparently, during C19. That's a lot of money, and most of that was that Amazon guy, because the government told you to get stuff ordered through that. You know, you can buy food and all that sort of stuff through Amazon.
Yeah.
Is this the one? Mystery Wire?
Yeah. You'll scroll down and you'll see the video.
It's not coming up. What's this thing? It's coming up with this page. Thank you.
I mean, no matter what happens in life, people always profit from things. That's what they do on the stock exchange, isn't it? They profit from disasters.
There we go. This
No,
video here. Is that the one?
Yeah, I'm not sure the page is loaded for you yet.
Is that the one we're after?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, you got it muted though.
Experiences that
I know that.
Of the experiences. How was it? 38%.
So this is abduction account for Rey.
Not just his, it's a general description as well. Yep, Rey Hernandez.
Ooh, what was that guy at the bottom? Was that I don't know, it's popped up then it disappeared. Okay, let me just adjust the volume here before we go. Maximum volume, see if it's too loud.
in our survey was that this is an extremely complex phenomenon. So that was the first finding, that it was overwhelmingly a not negative phenomenon.
I think that's loud enough, though.
Yeah, it's loud enough, but
neutral primarily.
I won't scroll back. I had to click on the timeline. Okay, that's where we do it. Yeah, maybe this time.
Okay, 4 out of 10 people said it was mainly negative. Okay, then we asked them to describe their experiences now. Okay, many years later. And what happened, depending on the questions that was asked, anywhere from between 85 to 95% of the people said it was not negative.
So you think it's basically boils down to when it happens, it's scary as hell.
The first experience is scary as hell.
Is that
you see one of these entities in front of you, physical entities.
I don't know, it could be.
And all of a sudden, you're scared. You know, obviously, it's natural. But what we discovered in our survey is that the vast majority of these individuals have had more than one experience. Actually, 40% have had more than 20 experiences. So in time, the experience changes. What we discovered is for many individuals that had physical experiences with non-human intelligence, that these were medical checkups, what we would call in the genre.
Mine wasn't.
And you were placed on a table, you were paralyzed, and you were inspected. The people that only had 1 or 2 of these types of experiences, those were the most traumatized. Okay, but then many of these people then all of a sudden were brought to crafts, were walking around perceived crafts. They then began to interact with human-looking beings, not with the short grays. The transition is towards then the human-looking beings later on.
Haven't seen
and
any
then
of those.
With many people, they were brought to other realities, what we call matrix realities, and almost double the number of people that have had abductions were brought to these matrix realities. So then they were taught like spiritual lessons, almost like having like NDEs, but it was related to, you know, a physical being that appeared in front of you, a human-looking being. What? So that's why at the end, these people said, look, in the beginning,
his name Jesus?
I was scared to wits by these experiences, but then later on, they had a whole total
the alien's
transformation.
name, Jesus.
And John has a book back there by Dr. Kenneth Ring, Heading Towards Omega. Dr. Kenneth Ring, I'm sure you're familiar with. Okay, he wrote a book in
I said, what's the alien's name? Jesus.
I haven't heard any alien's name in this, so I don't know what you're talking about.
No, it's just being something else.
No, when he's talking about near-death experiences, NDEs, or whatever it was talking about, he said there's always an alien that appears in front of him, and he was talking about giving religious teachings or whatever. To me, that sounds like religious minds there. You know, I don't think Travis Walton was given any religion or anal probing. But anyway, just carry on.
Well, the anal probing thing is
titled The Omega Project. And what he did in that book, he compared.
I think there's only one case that's ever been reported, isn't it? Doesn't it? Ripley Strevers.
No, there's Barney Hill as well, Paul.
He got an anal.
Yeah.
Really? I don't remember hearing that.
No,
we were going to do Betty and Barney Hill case at some stage, weren't we? But anyway, but we wanted to
we
get
could do that sometime.
Yeah, we want to get verification though from that Kathleen Martin, but she keeps all this stuff close to the heart and puts it in her own book so she can profit from it. And it's not like she's going to come on and verify things for us. That would be really good if she did, but I don't see it ever happening. But one thing we tried to ask is, can she verify Stan Romanick's thing about having Betty's what do you call it, nightgown on? Remember, he woke up one day and claimed he had her nightgown, and it had to be like she was contacted or abducted again for a second time. Later, before she just died or something like that, and they mixed up the clothes. He was abducted on the same night. Yeah, so that's the sort of thing we wanted to get verification on. But you know, you hear all these stories on presentations, but it's very hard to get to the truth of it all. But apparently Stan did say in that presentation that Kathleen did verify that Betty was taken later on in life and her nightgown was missing. So that, you know, if that's true, where can we find that information that on video or whatever? You know, but he's making lots of claims here too, and he's just making a summary of it all. But you know, a lot of these people are going to be religious people. You know, they're going to be, you know, Christians or whatever, Catholics, and it changes their whole world view. But I don't think somehow aliens would be using religion at all. They'd be more science and fact based, I would have thought, not just spiritual stuff. That's my gut feeling anyway.
Approximately 85 people that had NDE experiences, with 85 people that had abduction type of experiences. And he asked many types of questions, but one of the areas that he focused on was how do these people change from once the experiences started to right now. And what he discovered was that it was a total transformation of the personality profile of the individual. For example, people like in my case, total atheists, they become spiritual. People that were religious, they become very spiritual. People that were materialistic, all of a sudden, money is not important. People with immense egos, all of a sudden, diminished egos. Loving and caring to your fellow human brethren, all of a sudden, you know, they're very loving and caring. So it's a total transformation for both groups, he discovered.
Brainwashed,
for both the
maybe.
NDE folks and the abduction folks.
I'm sure you've asked yourself, hey, how can we step it up and have more of this?
Well,
because it seems to be in short supply, all that stuff you described.
Most definitely. What we did is we took 60 of those questions
like
on how did these people change and evolve from his book. And guess what? The same statistics, the same numbers showed up with the people that took our survey.
Why don't we do this? Why don't you start with sort of the broad strokes of what this project was, what you set out to do, and what you found?
Okay. I was at the home of Dr. Edgar Mitchell. I was at his home more than 20 times before he passed away. I also was there a few days before he passed away. He was in hospital in very bad condition. So Edgar and I were very close friends, and we had a lot of these intimate conversations, not only about ufology and non-human intelligence, but also consciousness and the paranormal. Edgar was very much interested in these topics from the very beginning. So I informed him of my experiences in detail. He then told me, and a lot of people don't know this, that he has spoken with hundreds of experiencers, just like Jacques Vallée, not only studying the ufology part of it, but also the experiencer side, except Edgar never publicly discussed the details of that. And then he told me, don't worry, you're not going crazy. These experiences are very, very real. I've heard it from many, many other individuals. And then I said, Edgar, but I did what is called an academic literature review of this, of what has been written academically about the experiencer contact phenomenon. And he says, Ray, it doesn't exist. I said, but Edgar, that's hard to believe. How could, you know, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people are having these experiences worldwide, and academics have not been interested in this? And it hasn't been documented. He says, well, we have a lot of personal anecdotal stories, mainly about the abduction phenomenon, but nothing about the whole complexities of the experiences that are having.
You also have a reluctance on the part of professionals and academics to study it.
Correct. And Rudy Shields, who's our executive director of our organization, he's one of the rare exceptions to this. And so Edgar said, look, Ray, what we really need is to undertake a comprehensive academic research study of the experiencer, because he knows it's not just nuts and bolts. It's not just the materialist phenomenon. And he told me, he said, from the people that he has spoken with, he suspected that it was primarily a paranormal phenomenon, a psychic phenomenon, a consciousness phenomenon. And he took that route because he started the Institute for Noetic Sciences. He's been researching consciousness for 30 years or more. You know, remote viewing, he was one of the pioneers of remote viewing when he was at the Stanford Research Center. So it was at the home of Edgar Mitchell that how should I say that the seed of this was planted. And then he helped me to get Rudy Shields involved, integrated into our work. We got Dr. John Climo, who had taught the paranormal basically for 40 years. He was a full tenured professor, and he had taught research methodology. And so I talked to John afterwards, and I said, John, would you like to become the chair of this research project, which we don't have an idea what we're going to be doing, but would you like to at least lead that charge? So over time, we got numerous academics, mainly retired academics. Another was Dr. Bob Davis, a retired professor of neuroscience that had just written a book about UFOs, but also was interested in the paranormal and consciousness. And Dean Radin was a consultant for our work. And then we brought in other individuals that had researched this phenomenon at the ground level. People like Leo Sprinkle, which you know, people like Kathy Martin, people like Mary Rodwell, etc. Denise Stoner, who had partnered with Kathy to do a research.
She's a right stoner.
So Barbara Lamb became involved.
Oh, no, Barbara Lamb.
So it was a very large team that basically got together, and we started with the question is, how do you start? How do you begin to research individuals that have seen UFOs and have contact with non-human intelligence? So over pretty much 9 months, we spent developing the research methodology with the academics and the people that had the boots in the ground.
Do you start with the premise that these experiences are generally...
I'm sorry, George. Could you restate?
Yeah. Do you start with the premises?
Do you did you start with the premise that these experiences are actually positive, even though they might be perceived as negative to begin with, and that's your starting point, and you're going to see if the data supports it?
No. We actually took the opposite approach. Our approach that we know nothing about this phenomenon. Everything that that themselves as researchers, Leo, Kathy, Marion, throw that all in the wastebasket. And let's start from scratch from what people have told you and begin to develop questions to extract that information. Because all of them said that, yes, there was a certain percentage of people that perceived their experiences as negative. Certain percentage, a very large percentage, saw their experiences over time as positive. A lot of people talk about the materialist aspect of the phenomenon, of seeing the crafts, of seeing the beings. A good majority of the people talked about the paranormal experiences that happened afterwards. Being taken out of their body, having OBEs, having near-death experiences, being brought to other matrix realities, etc., etc. So how do we get the totality of these experiences and begin to develop questions without any preconditions?
Also, how do you get people to cooperate? Because, I mean, these are sometimes embarrassing. People don't want to be thought of as crazy. Mm-hmm. For those who've had a negative experience, they're scared about sharing it. Many, I would imagine, don't even tell their own families.
Correct. What we found out was that the vast majority of people that took our surveys have never told anyone except their immediate family members.
We found that too.
Our survey was anonymous.
Do you want to pause
it
there,
ask
Paul?
For their name, their mailing address, social.
Yeah. Do you know, he's saying some really good things, but at the same time, I'm not convinced of this positive side to them, because I'm sorry, but I haven't spoken to a single person yet that actually said it was a positive experience.
Apart from me.
It's quite, well...
Mine was positive and negative. They could have asked me. Well, they could have asked me, I guess, instead of hijack me with an injection in the back. But anyway,
I had one brief encounter which you know about, and I can only say at the end of the day, whatever that was, if it was real, didn't wish me any harm, but it shouldn't have been there without consent,
Would they have had consent?
Sorry, Charles?
Well,
I said, would they have had consent?
Well, they got none from me, did they?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, but he's saying, would you give it to him?
Yeah.
Exactly. No, you wouldn't, would you? Because you don't know what's in store.
They just come and do whatever they want to do.
Well, if they told you what they're going to do.
Yeah, you refuse, wouldn't you?
You're not going to sign that contract, are you?
No way.
Yeah. Well, it depends. Can we send a Nordic hot chick to your bedroom and collect some sperm? You probably said, oh, yeah, maybe.
Days in a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Carry on.
Sure.
Security number, telephone numbers, that sort of thing. We also developed 3 surveys. In order to do the 3 surveys, it would take you, for example, for phase 1 and phase 2, the average was approximately 6 to 8 hours for most people that completed all of the answers. So it took a very long time. Phase 1 and 2 were the quantitative. We had 600 quantitative questions. Then we had a phase 3. Phase 3 was the qualitative questions. We had 70 open-ended questions. For the vast majority of these people, it took them several days to answer these questions. We received almost 1,400 responses for our qualitative questions, the open-ended questions. For phase 1, we received 4,200 responses from individuals from over 100 countries. And this is just for our English language survey. We did the survey in multiple languages. So if even, let's say, 5% of the people wanted to trick us,
so it's a big sample.
It was a huge sample. So even if it was 5%, what's 5% of 4,200?
All right, give me the laundry list of the things that jumped out at you, the conclusions that were
Well,
reached.
we have 4 major
Findings?
research findings. Well, we could go into hundreds of them, but the
Right.
4 major ones is that we asked almost 25 questions related to the question of positive, negative, and neutral. Was your experience positive or negative, neutral? We asked it in more than 25 different ways because depending on how you ask the question, you get different responses. Okay, so what we found out was that the responses was between 85% that were not negative to 95% that were not negative. We also found out was that in the very beginning of the experiences, 38% responded that their experiences were negative, perceived as highly negative, 38%. But then when we asked the individual now, what is your perception now? That number dwindled to, like what I said before, between 85 to 95% not negative. A good majority of the responses, depending on the question asked, was between 50 to 60% was neutral. So it wasn't that it was positive either. It was positive was depending between 35 to 45% was positive experiences. But neutral was the largest of the 3 categories. But the negative was actually the smallest part. We also discovered that over time, we had a statistician, Dr. Russell Scalpone, who worked with us. We had a paper that was published with Dr. Bob Davis, Dr. John Klimo, and Rudy Shield, and myself, and was published in the Journal of the Society for Scientific Exploration, which I'm sure you're familiar with that journal.
That's the one I covered years ago.
Extensively in that, and Dr. Dean Radin. And so he was part of our team that reviewed our data, and he was a co-author in that article. Obviously, we took out the emails for the participants. And he did several types of statistical studies to gauge the validity of it. One was that he grouped them in country code. Not country code, excuse me, geographic region. He put all the individuals in the English language survey from Europe, from Canada, from the United States, from Great Britain, and then from New Zealand and Australia. And he reviewed how people answered the questions over time. And what he found out was that it was consistent. It was a 10% variance between the answer response for all of the questions, all over the countries, over time. So people were responding consistently over time, doesn't matter what geographic region you were in. He also did a statistical analysis of the people that had viewed their experiences as mainly negative, as neutral or positive, and then he reviewed it with how many experiences you had. And I have a bar graph showing that in my presentation. It shows the more experiences you have, the more positive was your response.
You get used to it.
You're used to it, and also not only that, but your experiences change. Remember I told you that for many people, it was the physicality of it, as Dr. John Mack calls the ontological shock. That was, the horror of it, And then later on, you're not on the slab being expected. Now other experiences occur, and then over time, the human-looking being appears.
So what changes is how they treat you.
how they treat you. It's your medical inspection's already done. The little grays are done with you. Then for many of the cases, then there's different types of interactions with vast majority of the cases, human-looking beings. As a matter of fact, in our survey, we asked what was the number one type of being seen by individuals. The number one at 55% was the energy being. Number two at 52% was the human-looking being. Number three was the short grays at 51%. But the short grays were, in the very beginning of people's experiences, were the number one type of entity seen.
I suppose the paranormal
As
would
time
be
developed,
energy beings.
then it wasn't the short grays anymore.
You know,
Then
free
it was
forming
other types of
clouds.
beings.
So it's sort of the equivalent of you're a mouse in a lab. You've got a disease. Somebody comes and plucks you out of the cage, experiments with you, sticks a needle in you, puts you back,
and heal you.
It heals you over time, but you don't know until later down the road.
50% of the people that took our surveys had a medical healing.
Like
I
what?
told you,
Healings for what?
You name it, all types. We've had 3 medical doctors that took our surveys. Joe, as a matter of fact, did an in-depth, Dr. Joseph Burks, who's a retired medical doctor, did an in-depth survey of one of these medical doctors who I know. And he saw his medical records, his medical credentials, to prove that he's a medical doctor, even though he was a friend of mine. Joe had to see all of that. So we went over the details of his medical healing. And we had many cases, cancer cases. Chris Bledsoe, I'm sure you're familiar with his case of the Crohn's disease.
So people have cancer and the cancer is gone.
Yeah.
Chris Bledsoe should be struck off that list straight away, shouldn't he? That guy believes that guy. He's in trouble. Yeah. There are some interesting cases out there, though, which we haven't actually got any public access to, and that was patient 15 of Dr. Lear's, where plastic forks and things were magnetized, which should be impossible. And also the Australian man claims to have sex with Nordics or whatever. And yeah, bit the nipple off or something crazy like that and spat it out. And all he had left was a hair sample. Well, why didn't he pick up that piece of tit that he bit off? Yeah. You know what I mean? I covered that case and I thought that was very suspect, even though he passed the lie detector test. A lot of people said that maybe he was covering up that he had sex with a hooker or something like that because of his religious background or something, but that's possible, I guess. But yeah, I'll see if I can find those episodes and post it in the side chat if people have not seen it. We have talked about it in the past.
Has Robert disappeared?
He might have turned off his camera.
Yes, I apologise, I'm eating. But yeah, it's an interesting interview, but ooh, Bledsoe, ooh.
Oh, we don't mind watching you eat.
Okay.
Is your dog watching you eat as well?
No, not as yet. But she'll make a start even soon.
It's not a leftover KFC, is it? Anyway, we can carry on.
No. It's pizza.
I had pizza yesterday for lunch.
Yes. Also, near-death experiences. There have been, numerous cases. We interviewed Raymond Moody and Dr. Jeffrey Long, and they said that's one of the major phenomenon of the NDE phenomenon. Many people that have had a significant disease, they're told in their interactions with this energy being, the number one being seen in UFO contact experiences, also in an NDE, that when you go back, don't worry about your cancer, don't worry about whatever disease you've got, it's all taken care of.
Are the healings the reason for these interactions, or do you? I'm asking you to guess.
I don't think so. I think
it's just a side effect.
I think it's a side aspect of it that when they do a physical inspection of you, they detect something, an anomalous problem with you, and they take care of it. Not obviously everyone. We don't know the answers to these questions of why one person, why another person. But what we gathered in our survey was that this is an extremely complex phenomenon. So that was the first finding, that it was overwhelmingly a not negative phenomenon. It was either a neutral primarily, and like 40, depending on the question, 40 to 50% was positive experiences. Number two was that these experiences were primarily not physical. the experiences were primarily paranormal. Like in my case, I saw this energy being in my living room. And I saw twice huge UFOs. One time a football stadium-sized UFO that was 30 feet away from us, from my daughter, myself, and 3 friends. So that's the physical aspect of it. But what happened when I saw that physical being, that physical UFO, UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena, there was mind-to-mind communication that took place.
What was said?
Well, it's a lengthy story,
yeah.
but lengthy story. But basically, there was mind to mind, and then also they put thoughts in my mind as well. Like, for example, they wanted to get rid of me, how to leave, and they put in my mind that thousands of mosquitoes were attacking me, and I was slapping my legs in my shorts, and I was like, went to my daughter. I said, "Let's get out of here. These mosquitoes are killing me." So it's when we go inside that I'm telling my wife what had happened. And my daughter overhears it. She goes, "Daddy, there were no mosquitoes outside." And all of a sudden, it's like the hypnotist snapped his finger, and all of a sudden, you're conscious of your reality. So I was placed in some type of a daze where I was interacting and physically seeing and thinking, but yet the pictures, we all had cell phones. The teenager that was with us, a 17-year-old, had her iPhone in her hand. No one took a picture or a video of this, okay? And then how they got me to leave was they put this thought into me. But then while you're experiencing this, you don't realize the significance of the consequences.
You think if you took a picture that you would catch an image, that you would actually capture an
Well,
image?
lots of people have actually captured, physical pictures of these physical phenomenon that they're seeing. But the point that I'm getting at is that what a lot of people don't understand is just like CE5, people go out to a desert and they call down craft or non-human intelligence, and 15 minutes later it showed up. That's what happened in my case, okay? And then the thought
He's a
patterns
Dr. Gray
that took
believer.
place with telepathic communications. These types of complexities, no one really has fully developed in the field of ufology. We were able to document it, a lot of that paranormal aspect of it. And that's just one component. What we discovered was that, for example, just to give you an illustration of the primacy of the paranormal, 80% of the individuals that took our survey said that they've had an out-of-body experience. Okay? Telepathic communications, 67%, almost 2 out of 3 individuals, 2 out of 3 people said that they've had telepathic, communication, downloads, telepathic downloads of information. Again, another 2/3 of the people. I could go on and on. You name all the paranormal phenomenon, these people have had it.
These are their experiences prior to their encounter, or it happens after, or both?
The vast majority after. Some of them have had before, but at a very limited basis. It seems like either the 37% have had an NDE, okay, of the individuals. For the vast majority of people that have had an NDE, it seems like the NDE triggered the paranormal experiences. The people that have had these UFO, you see a UFO, right? And all of a sudden, boom, the triggering effect takes place where these paranormal experiences are then accelerated. That was, again, we're not able to fully document it because our survey was still quite limited, 600 questions and 70 open-ended questions. But these are hypotheses that we gathered from the open-ended responses that we want to pursue later on. But that's sort of a hypothesis that we have, that these are tricking mechanisms. So number one is that these were overwhelmingly positive and not negative experiences. Number 2, the phenomenon is primarily paranormal, ethereal, conscious phenomenon, and not physical phenomenon, even though they do exist, okay, with everybody. Number 3, these experiences were were also transformational for the individual. Their personality profile was completely transformed. And all you need to do is to read Dr. Kenneth Ring's book, The Omega Project, again, and read his findings. We duplicated exactly those research findings. You had a total transformation of the person. Even people that have had abductions, okay? What we discovered was that 70% of the people that have had abduction experiences, okay, now call themselves contactees, not abductees. Why? Because their experiences evolved over time and changed.
Because they went
It's the
to
people that
contact in
only
the
had a
desert.
few experiences, mainly just the physical, paralyzed inspection. They're still horrified to this day.
You know the stories that have been so popularized in best-selling books and movies. The abductions is a harrowing and frightening experience.
Yes, beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Dark motives that are brought up, the idea of genetic manipulation and hybrid beings and things of that sort. Any feedback like that from your group?
My response is to look at Whitley Strieber. Okay, Whitley Strieber began with these horrifying experiences. He was put on the whole circuit of radio interviews, lecture circuits, whatever. So people perceive the experience as that, the horrifying type of experience. Look at Whitley Strieber now. Whitley Strieber is love and light, spirituality. His experiences over time.
Yeah, but he's also making money from it and selling books.
Yes, he is. I don't know if you're subscribed to his channel, Paul.
No.
Well, I'm subbed to like over 100 channels that are UFO related, even if some of them only occasionally have UFO content. But yeah, I must say, Whitley Strieber has gone extremely spiritually minded. Some of the guests he has on, I think, are a little bit kooky, geez. But Earl's quite a big believer in the Whitley Strieber story, and Earl's had more experience with abduction events than me. So, I don't know. I was always suspicious of his story. It was the whole background of him being a fiction writer before.
Yeah, that's right. That's the whole problem with me too. Yeah, the background.
Yeah.
And of course, he may have seen a way to create a new line of fantasy books, right? So, but he did do some interesting stories, right? Here's one called The Key, is it? The Key, or The Coin, I can't remember, The Penny or something like that, where he has like a men in black come knock on his door and he talks to him, and they claim to be from the future or something like that.
Okay, hold on a minute. Can I just stop you there for a second now? Is that one of his fiction stories, or is that part of his book Communion? Or one of his later?
I think it's another book he was working on. And he said it was based on a true thing that happened. But yeah, I don't know if I believe it. But apparently they were claiming to be from the future. And something to do with the key. I can't remember what the key thing was now. What the key or the penny. Whenever he touched it or something, he could summon them or travel out of body to somewhere or something. I can't remember now the story, but you might be able to find it. It was an interesting story. I'm not sure if you heard about it, Charles.
No. Don't.
You may have fallen asleep.
No.
I suppose we better wrap up this and let Charles get to bed.
We'll finish with this, yeah. Sure. But it's an interview.
I think I've looked up the story before and read it out. It may have been on past live show. The key or the penny or whatever it was. It was quite an interesting story. But yeah, once it starts talking about time travel, I was a wee bit skeptical that it could be even remotely true or based on truth. I think maybe it's misinterpretation. Now, I've talked about multi-universes where there's other Earth-like planets slightly in the future and some behind us in the dinosaur age or whatever. And people can just enter into those worlds or they can enter into ours. So it'd be a bit scary having a T-Rex come into our world and running down the street, I guess. That's not happened so far, but it could explain.
I can't exactly set mush on it, can I?
Yeah, it could explain how Bigfoots enter and leave our planet. Maybe there's something on our planet. Yeah, something on our planet they need, and then they head back again. They come here for resource hunting or whatever. Who knows?
Do you know people are actually still seeing dinosaurs?
Yeah, but it's normally in water though, isn't it?
especially in the Canadian region, and pterodactyls as well.
Pterodactyls.
I don't know what the hell's going on there. You know,
They reckon Loch Ness monsters dinosaur, aren't they, from a past age?
I don't think it's time travel though.
Yeah. With the Loch Ness monster, the most logical explanation is a plesiosaur.
Yeah, I was just going to say plesiosaur.
Yeah, there's another series on TV at the moment while I'm talking about that called Paranormal Detective, is it? No. Paranormal something. Declassified, I think it was. And this guy looks at new information, FOIA requests and all that sort of stuff that's come available. And he gets a lot of high-tech equipment and stuff and tries to go and hunt for stuff. Apparently, he went diving in the lake on the first episode to try and find Okopoko, or whatever it's called. And they got some interesting videos there where it looks like a long snake thing with flippers on it, like 6 flippers on it along the body.
Oh no, that's not never one of your TV shows, is it, Paul?
No, this is from a witness that was recording it. It was on the TV show, of course, but they got a video expert on it, which is kind of interesting. And he stabilized it, and you can see the flippers coming in and out of the water. And yeah, it's definitely something.
But they've done that with Loch Ness monster in the past, haven't they?
Yeah, but not as good as this video. Not as good as this video. This video is really interesting. You'd have to watch the series.
Yeah.
I think I gave you some links. Maybe I didn't post around the database thing.
Plenty of links there.
Yeah, paranormal. What did I say it was? Declassified. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, I think you're right. I've heard of that.
And I think he's got one coming up on UFOs, so definitely go and check it out. Declassified. Here we go. 2020. Now, someone's given it a 1 star, but I think that's a bit wrong, if that's the case.
Bit harsh, yeah.
I'd say it's better than a lot of the shows that we had so far. So here's one trying to make money off recycled information, but actually he actually does find some new information, which is quite interesting. I thought, now I'll give it a try. But yeah, go and check it out. What channel is it on? Can't remember now. Does it say here?
It should tell you.
Reality TV. There you go. Oh no, that's that's not it. I think it would say it there. I'll post it down the side. Anyway.
No, yeah, that's just the Gina. That's not the TV show.
The second episode was on Skinwalker, and he didn't get an invite in by Brandon to come and investigate. So he was on the hill looking over, and some other investigators was tailgating him on the way away, and they thought, oh, this is really weird, are we going to get killed? And the guy said, oh, he's been investigated for years, and apparently he said he's seen a skinwalker where it was like a black mist that was forming in front of him and other people. I'm not sure if they caught it on camera or not. I don't think they did, because they would have shown it on the video, of course.
Yeah, well, actually, a friend of mine, you know, somebody I've met through UFO research and stuff on Facebook, he's actually in production now, doing another skinwalker thing. But he's not on the ranch itself, because I don't think he got permission either. But I could be wrong. But what he was telling me is that whole Uinta Basin in that Utah region there has got stuff going on. It's not just the ranch itself, you know.
It's all outside it as well.
What's he doing there? Don't remember seeing that. Oh, right, that's Medicine Man, giving him a protection spell. Those Indians are creaming in the money on that sort of stuff. Smudging and stuff. Yeah, it looks like the next one's on cattle mutilation, so make sure you check it out. And also we've got alien cover-ups, so that might be interesting. Or
Okay.
I don't think it can be any worse than that Greatest Mysteries series we're seeing. At least this guy has been capturing something new. Apparently he put in a hydrophone in the water and left it running. Because he's got military contacts. He got hold of this extremely sensitive microphone and he stuck it in the water. And they caught this, what they thought was a whale, in a lake. I don't know if whales actually swim in lakes, but it sounded just like one they said. I can't remember what it was. Not a blue whale, but some other kind of whale. But they said it's impossible. It can't be, and it's very close match. It's not 100%. No, they reckon it was some sort of unknown creature because the call was very similar but it's different. Like it was communicating, see if any other of its species was around. And they also showed a good sonar hit where it actually looked like a figure of one of these dinosaurs with a long neck underwater. They said that's how it reflected off. Whether that could be a school of fish or not, I don't know. I'm not the expert on it, but it did actually look like a typical Nessie image they caught with side scan sonar. But yeah, go and check it out anyway. 2 episodes are out already. The next two will probably be more interesting ones. Anyway, back to this again. Charles has got another bookmark. He'll be saying, "Buddy Bull and Rob."
Nothing like that.
Yeah, like Travis one. Travis one was a big one like that.
Time evolved and changed. He still gets lots of contact experiences, but now it's related to spirit, okay? To something totally different. And he's still interacting with non-human intelligence, but it's an evolution of it. That's what we have in our book with the vast majority of people. And that's what really that information has not been circulating. And people don't know about that. Why? Because it's never been documented. Because Leo Sprinkle knew about that because he'd been working with people that had these evolutionary type of experiences, Barbara Lamb, Mary Rodwell, but it was never documented. They had hypotheses, but they never had the raw data.
So
now we've got the data.
Let's do the other two conclusions.
Yes. Yes. Now the last one, I gave you the first three. The last one was that just like Jacques Vallée stated, okay, these experiences involve a manipulation of space-time. Okay, and the hypothesis from that is that
space-time is wrong.
Some of this non-human intelligence, or some form, some percentage of these entities of non-human intelligence, or maybe it's all of them, but a certain portion of these experiences are multidimensional experiences. That people are being brought to other
multidimensional, but not space-time.
That people are being taken out of space and time. I could give you a couple of illustrations. But in our open-ended questions,
into another multi-universe.
Hundreds of these types of examples.
Oh, I'm not going to argue, Paul.
For example, Giorgio is here with
Einstein's wrong about space-time. Come on.
We were both driving our car in Miami near Route 836.
If space-time is correct.
And in my case...
Oh, never mind, Paul.
If space-time is correct, that means you can travel back into the past, and that's just cobblers. I don't care who says space-time is real. You can't travel back in time or go forward in the future and all that sort of stuff. That would be a right mess, wouldn't it, to our planet? There'd be all sorts of bad people using it to exploit it, killing presidents off and all that sort of stuff.
Making lots and lots of money.
Yeah, that's right. I don't think it's possible for a lot of reasons like that, But certainly you could be in space and travel faster. Time just goes forward, so you're spending less time traveling. You can certainly go into another multi-universe where time seems to slow down. Because it's not your universe. You've been dragged into it, which is what probably aliens do. They hover over your house, send down the beam, and it opens up a portal into their universe, and they just take you there, and people don't see what's going on, and it just transports you.
Yeah, so this Rey Hernandez now, he's a Cuban, he is, and yeah, he's doing a few conferences and stuff,
Yeah, and he says he's not religious. He's certainly got a lot of stuff in the background that suggests he is, though. idols and figurines, and there's an
Well,
ancient alien
maybe
poster on the
studied
wall there.
religion doesn't actually make him religious, does it?
Well,
I
yeah, it could
mean,
be spiritual, as they call it.
you can be spiritual without being, kind
Without
of
being in
connected
the,
to any particular
without being in a
doctrine.
cult, without being in the cult
Yeah,
called a church. Yeah.
Hold on.
They haven't actually
They
said
got
if
me
aliens
back
actually
right.
have a religion, though. They talk about the aliens doing religion on them, but what was the information that the aliens were saying? You know, that's a crucial part of the interview there that should have been asked. Is there like a supreme being that they go under, like humans, or what? You know, or do they believe that all the universe is a god and we're just part of it? Which makes more sense to me because we are children of the sun. Atoms come from the suns exploding or colliding universes, colliding galaxies. I mean, where the suns collide together and explode and.
Yeah, gotta be part of it because there better be more planets out there anyway for a start.
Yeah, so we've only been here on a speck of time, right? Compared to all the things that were before us, like dinosaurs, hundreds of millions of years. So how long are we going to last? I don't know. But unless we get out in space and start moving off this rock here, our DNA is not going to progress through the universe.
Well, at the moment, we're on self-destruct at the moment on this Earth. I mean, human races.
Yeah. But that's been
I don't
the
think
case
he
for
is
a long
Cuban.
time.
Actually, I think that's a mistake I've made. I think he's South American origin.
Yeah, it looks kind of like could be Mexican or it could be Brazilian. Anyway, we'll just carry on. Well, it looks like maybe it could be a mix, actually. It's a bit hard to tell. Yeah, it kind of looks like it's from Brazil to me. Looks very similar to Jaime Maussan here. That's my feeling, anyway.
I was taken out of my body while I was driving, okay? I was brought to a matrix reality, okay, where I was given information. And then I was plucked back. It seemed like that experience lasted half an hour, okay? But to me, the interview that I was listening to on National Public Radio did not skip a beat. So I was brought back instantaneously without any time. But yet my consciousness was taken out to another reality, like an NDE type of experience.
It's not really
Giorgio
time, though.
had something similar where he was in that same area, 836 near the airport, but like
to me that's like describing when you have operation, right, and they put you under. As far as you know, there's no missing time until you wake up. You think, nothing's happened, but you've lost 2 hours of
2
time,
seconds.
right? So it's nothing about changing time or our reality. I think it's just because you get knocked out and your brain's not processing the information in the same way.
maybe 10 blocks or 15 blocks down. And he was, he then instantaneously listening to another interview on Spanish radio show. And the interview did not skip a beat. But all of a sudden, he appeared 25 miles away near Dolphin Stadium, driving his car. Okay, so taken out of space-time, brought to another location without any time missing. These Denise Stoner, who you've had on your show, I'm sure, before, she had an experience, which is very, very common, with she and her entire family were driving in, I believe it was Colorado. It was a very lengthy drive, numerous hours. And all of a sudden, it was hours later. It was 6 or 7 hours later, and they were in a totally different location. And her family members were trying to find out whether they had an accident, whether they were in a hospital, whatever it was. So their car and their entire family, it was the husband, Denise, the wife, and 2 children, and their entire car was transported somewhere else.
Okay, so they got lifted up by a UFO, knocked out, and then dropped off again, right? So, that, again, it's not space-time. It just means they got missing time, that's all. And they were transported elsewhere, exactly. You know.
The cinematographers that you've met, Kevin and Helene, they told me a story where they were in Cancun coming back from Chichen Itza in a rural road, and all of a sudden they saw like a big gigantic moon, bright light that was coming at them at the ground level, and this is at dusk. And the car sputtered, and the headlights were blinking low beam, high beam, low beam, high beam. And so Kevin just pulled his hand right in the middle of the road off of the steering wheel. And later on, it was 6 hours later, they were in their hotel in Cancun, fully clothed, with mud on their boots, in their bed, and their car was properly parked. These types of stories in terms of vehicle, I'm just giving you one illustration of the vehicle. There are tons of these types of illustrations. But the more common type of illustration of manipulation of space-time was where people are being brought.
Okay, so that's like a date rape thing. You can tell people to jump around, walk over there, and they have no memory of it, right? But he keeps mentioning space-time. It's just peeing me off.
To these other realities, like had happened to me. We've had, stories after stories after stories. In our survey, we asked that question, and 50% of the individuals were brought to another perceived multidimensional reality.
Is there a way to measure the frequency of these experiences, whether it's increasing? Is there, or it's always been this way, they weren't reported, so you can't really judge whether there's more of it or less of it?
Yeah, my best guess to this is that I cannot answer that question. We cannot answer that question because no one has ever done any type of these surveys or these comprehensive statistical analysis at a nationwide basis. What I can tell you is that the vast majority of the people who took our survey, and also the people I continue to communicate with, because people send me emails all the time once they find out about what we're doing, and I talk to these people, all the time. I always ask them a question: have you told anyone else about this? And almost everyone, Ray, who the hell am I going to tell this to?
What do you do with this? Is the idea, now that you've got this, you continue the research, gather more data, but ultimately, what do you do with it?
Well, John Alexander's hypotheses, and that's the hypotheses that's shared by Dr. Edgar Mitchell before he passed away, Dr. Rudy Shields, all of the members of our board of directors, Dr. John Klimo, who's been researching the paranormal and ufology and consciousness for over 45 years, Dr. Claude Swanson, PhD physicist from Princeton, who's a member of our board, Dean Radin, so many other people. All of us hypothesize that what we call the contact modalities, which is all the different ways that humans are piercing the veil and having contact with non-human intelligence, i.e. out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, UFO contact, remote viewing, shamanic hallucinogenic journeys, communication with ghosts and spirits, etc., 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 that they all share a common source.
The problem, though, with out-of-body is it's just like dreaming, though, isn't it? So it's hard to know whether it was real or not. I've talked about having out-of-body before, but it's hard to know if your mind's playing tricks on you. It's not the same as being woken up and dragged off by aliens, like in physical body. So he's talking about near.
They have some dreams, and they feel so flipping real when you've woken up.
Yeah, they do. Mm-hmm. And of course, these guys are saying that the dreams are reality, and when it's related to aliens. But how do we know? It might be that we're tapping into a information field. Our brain somehow connects into the energy field where we're sort of tapping into past lives of other people that are stored in that field of information, and it's like it's all real. Our brains reassemble it, these real people. Who knows? Our brain is still unknown, and you're talking about billions of bits of information stored in organic matter called the brain. If you get a head injury, that changes the person and all that sort of stuff as well. So the brain is the person, which is really the soul. If the brain's gone, the soul's gone.
Spirit.
Yeah, we just don't know what life is all about and what makes us unique and all that sort of stuff. Apart from that, we think and invent stuff, right? And try to make so we don't suffer as much and have a better life, really. Back in the old days, I think the average lifespan was like 30. Now it's probably more like 80 now, and that's because we advanced in technology in such a short time, 150 years. So, you carry on.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say that he took his PhD in New York, and he currently resides in Miami, Florida.
Mm.
So he could be an American, Mexican.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mix.
Yeah. That's hard to know. And there's a lot of immigrants that go to America, of course, from south, so or central as well.
Yeah.
But he certainly believes in energy beings and out of body and all that sort of stuff. So yeah.
Force, because all of them involve a manipulation of space-time.
No.
So the future, what needs to take place, maybe not in my generation, is that we really
need to educate
get,
these people.
Academics, scientists, social science researchers, diversity of academic fields, together with researchers of these phenomenon, to be able to study these comprehensively, holistically, as one phenomenon, instead of, for example, both Raymond Moody and Jeffrey Long, two of what I consider the five, most important near-death experience researchers. They also have that hypothesis, and they said, Ray, we need to be able to work as a team. Instead of studying just the NDE phenomenon or the psi phenomenon like Dean Radin studies, we need to work together. And Jeffrey Long actually asked me whether he could join our board of directors because he's interested in doing that. So that's what I would argue, is that we need to be able, what Dr. John Alexander has stated, we need to be able to develop a team, get significant funding to do these types of surveys all throughout the world in multiple languages, and over the long run begin to study what the hell is going on, because right now we have no idea.
You look at the UFO phenomena, the modern era anyway, since 47, people studying things in the sky and trying to figure it out, and the government's done secret studies and civilians have done it, and we have a lot of information and thousands of cases and millions of witnesses who've seen this stuff, but it doesn't feel like we're any closer to understanding the big questions.
Correct.
Who are they? Where are they from? Why are they here? What their interest is in us? Do you know?
Well, let me respond.
And is it just one day?
Let me respond to that question. I think that anyone that proclaims that they have answers to these profound questions that you ask is totally clueless, because we have no answers. We are just barely beginning to understand what questions to ask. That's number one. Okay. Number two. The field of ufology, materialist mainstream ufology, which is still the vast majority of the field of ufology researchers, their perspective is that it's a materialist phenomenon. So for 70 years, ufology has focused on pictures, on videos of metals that have fallen down, that type of thing. The perspective that Edgar always had, and the members of all of our board of directors, is that the key to be able, first of all, that in 70 years, the field of materialist ufology has contributed very little, just like you sort of implied with your question. And our perspective is that the experiencer, the people that are having these experiences, that's where the nuggets are. That's where the kernels are. Because they can tell you, just like all the people that you've interviewed on your shows over the years, they've seen these things. They're able to tell you how it materialized, dematerialized, how it put thoughts into your mind, how telepathic communications take place in their native language. Doesn't matter where they're from. Being brought to other realities, being brought to to a perceived craft. Whether these experiences are for example, consciousness-based, whether they're not consciousness-based. All these questions, George, we're just beginning to scratch the surface of. It's an extremely complex phenomenon, which I think, in my opinion, materialist ufology has not really understood the complexities of this phenomenon.
You listed the energy beings, the human beings. There are, tall whites and reptilians and different kinds of creatures and animals and beings that have been described over the years. We don't really know what they look like, do they? I mean,
Correct.
We don't know if those are all the same.
Correct. That's, for example, I talk to experiencers. They have not only seen those beings that you mentioned, they've seen Egyptian gods. The god with the dog head, Ganesh with the elephant head. From India, and these are scientists. These are credible people. We had I won't give you any clues, but someone that won a major Academy Award, okay?
Tom Cruise.
A person seeing a physical being just sit in, in their home, large being, okay? I won't give any more clues, okay? But just to let you know that people from all walks of life, they're seeing a whole vast array of these different types of quote unquote beings.
And we really don't know if that's what they look like.
We don't know whether Ganesh actually came or whether this was just.
Yeah, so it doesn't mean that they're all aliens, of course. The paranormal could be something totally different. I've talked about it on my universe model.
It's a strange overlap, isn't it? It's very difficult to know what exactly is going on. And fair play to me, did say the whole phenomenon is extremely complex.
Yeah, but they seem to be muddy in the water here, I think. Because you don't know the people that they're interviewing of sound mind or on drugs or whatever, you know.
Oh, yeah, but no, you said, come on, people from all walks of life. I mean, the handful of people I've talked to have been from all walks of life. I mean, one was a prison guard. Geez, I mean, I don't know. It doesn't make sense for them to be making this stuff up. And everyone I asked, I always kind of feel obliged to ask, is there any history of alcohol and drugs in your... and I've never met anyone who's confessed to that anyway. I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
As
I
if
don't
they
think
would.
anybody knows.
Yeah. Egyptian gods, though, that kind of sounds almost like, a dream state, they're talking about being scientists that had it. Well, maybe they researched it in the past, and it's sort of part of their dream state, well, where they have some sort of paranormal experience, and it's somehow it's triggered it, because the mind's a very complex thing, you see.
It was some religions like Indians in the rainforest or whatever. They use like drugs and stuff like that to get to the paranormal stuff.
Yeah, they do.
Oh yeah, because it could actually open an avenue in the mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, but is it real, Charles? That's like an out of body experience where they see all sorts of things happening. You've had Josh Gates to experiment with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're doing it for centuries, haven't they? So something must be up.
It's not like you can actually take your camera in there and see what the people are seeing. But they are working on science where they can put a person in MIR and actually start to form images what they're seeing in their head. That would be quite interesting if that develops further. So you could then put someone in into a coma or Amazon drug state and actually see what they're seeing and experiencing. But
You have a third eye.
Are you passing into another multi-universe where it's all totally different? Or another energy field where all the information is actually stored and they can form the bodies of the dead people in the past? Or do you believe in the reincarnation side of it where you do go into this energy field as a whole after you die and you're given a new body or a shell, as they call it, to enter into before it's born? So that's Buddhism, isn't it? Which is probably the most peaceful and less violent of all the religions on Earth as well.
Oh, yes. Oh, God, yeah.
Do you actually believe in reincarnation? There has been some really interesting, incredible stories of kids coming out with stuff they shouldn't know about. I'm sort of not fully open or closed on it, 50-50, And same with mediums. So how mediums pulling out people's names and dates of births and all that from thin air.
There's a lot of con people, aren't they?
Yeah, it's a bit of cold reading thrown in, isn't it? But there are some people that don't need to do that. They can just sit there at a table with a pen and paper and then start to see what they're seeing, unless there's been some cheating, which we don't see on these TV shows, right? So one show I like at the moment is what's that one? Filer. What's this? What's it called now? It's got the guy from Coast to Coast on it. What's his name? God,
George Norby.
No. One of the other
George
guys.
Knapp. George Knapp.
No. Schrader, is it? David Schrader, is it? What's that show called?
I've heard that name before, but it's not Coast to Coast. Coast to Coast is
it Filer Files or something like that? Anyway, it's really interesting that they're going over his old cold cases as a paranormal investigator, and they go back and visit the scene, and they actually find out more about what he didn't know, and from historians and all that, and they actually figure out, solve the case pretty much, that he couldn't figure at the time. He was using mediums as well. Is it Filer Files? No, what's it called? I don't think it's called that. I think that's another show. I don't know. My brain's gone today. Anyway, I think we've got the end of this video almost.
Yeah, some type of projection. Okay, that you're perceiving, because they put so much into your mind that you could perceive almost anything. Like, for example, who's the man that sees the owls all the time? Mike Cleland. Okay, tons of owls. 6-foot owls interacting with him all the time. I doubt, and he doubts, that these 6-foot owls actually exist. But these are projections, that they're physical, they're real, just like as you and I are talking.
One other question. You mentioned Dr. Mitchell. He was on a board of NIDS, National Institute for Discovery Science, worked with Bob Bigelow and a really excellent world-class group of scientists. And they had a living laboratory, a place called Skinwalker Ranch, which seemed to be the Disneyland of the paranormal. It's everything you can imagine was all there in one place. UFO activity and orbs, poltergeist, crop circles, Bigfoot, dimensional portals, all at one place. And the question is whether or not whatever it is that's there is trying to tell us it's a learning curve. These are all related. It's all the same thing.
I think that's the message. Certainly, Dr. John Alexander certainly understands that. All of the members of our board certainly understand that concept, that it's all interrelated. In terms of asking more profound, big questions, after that, who knows? I mean, we're totally clueless. This is, I consider this the world's greatest jigsaw puzzle that in our generation, we're not going to solve that riddle.
We're in kindergarten.
We're in pre-K. We're in pre-K. To begin to even learning how to talk the language. But yet we know it exists. We still don't know, the vast majority of society doesn't know the complexities of it, especially the field of materialist ufology. They're just focusing on a UFO, on Rendlesham Forest, on Roswell. To me, it's like, please, give me a break, Let's focus on the real issues here, the complex issues. And we believe that the experiencer is the key to be able to, pull out the golden nuggets.
Okay.
I think you need to look at everything. So he's not quite right there. Because you can see connections between all UFO cases, right? What is David Schrader TV series? I think that's his name, isn't it? There it is. The Holster Files. Holster Files. It's actually a good series. It's one of my favorite ones. It's David Schrader. They do some really interesting research on it and actually find answers to the locations and stuff. Like a covered up Indian tower where the people were all slaughtered and all that sort of stuff, and that's probably why they're seeing Indian spirits there and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, but the Holster Files is one of my favourite ones. Ghost Adventures is just garbage now. I just watched another episode last night and I thought this is just boring. The same old stuff,
Still on Sky Eye.
No, I watch it online. But anyway, yeah, Travel Channel was on that one. Yeah, you watch it on your web browser and stuff like that, stream sites and stuff, right? But yeah, you can watch it on TV if it has it. If you're lucky. Sometimes you have to wait a year in New Zealand to get some of these shows. But yeah, anyway, I suppose we better wrap up now. And
yeah, definitely, I'm absolutely shattered.
You are.
Yeah, I'm
it's not so much tired as I need more food. I'm the more starving, tired, and if I don't eat, it makes me feel tired. You see.
What are you saying, Charles? Thanks all for coming.
4 hours.
You cut out again, Charles.
I said I got to go about 3.5, 4 hours again because she's off to work again.
Oh, jeez.
Get up with it.
Oh.
He's going to blame me, Paul the slave driver on Out There Channel, doing lots of things.
I like to get up there before she goes to work to see it because I don't see it till 6:30 till tomorrow night. You know what I mean?
Charles is seeing that running a YouTube channel is a lot of work. He streams with me every night, pretty much chatting, and I show him stuff on the screen here, what we do behind the scenes, and there's a lot of work.
Flipping things going on topics.
Yeah, but you're doing a good job. We got good chapters now, so if I do tomorrow's show with the chapters that Charles done, you'll be able to jump to all the points in that chapter on Travis Walton and skip bits that you don't want to hear, perhaps. But yeah, so I'll just go and wind down now, and good night all.
Yep, good night.
And you can drop off now, Charles, and we'll see you later.
Bye, guys.
Okay, thanks, Charles. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Louder for some reason.
Sounds okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's a wee bit louder than normal though. I'll turn it down on the headset. That's a good beat to this one. CPU's peaking a wee bit. Hopefully the audio was all good tonight. It's not like yesterday. That sort of ruined our show yesterday, unfortunately. But it's only in the first 50 odd minutes, so not too bad. Good night. See you again next weekend.